Welcome, everyone, to the Talk Everything podcast, where we cultivate healthy discussion around controversial topics. And I'm your host, Joseph Jackson. And today I have two guests with me here. So excited about this. This will be a lot of fun for me. And I hope it's a lot of fun for you all who will be watching. Today we're going to be discussing Christianity. We're also going to be addressing controversial topics within Christianity. And we'll probably delve into worldviews and just a lot of different topics. So I have here with me Nikki and Chris. Chris is a Christian. Chris will be conversing and taking the Christian position. Nikki herself is an atheist. She'll be taking the atheistic stance on these issues. I ran into Nikki on Twitter. I ran into Chris. I think I first saw him on YouTube and just LinkedIn, started watching his stuff, really enjoyed it. And then Nikki, I saw Nikki posting, and as a Christian myself, I had to get into the mix and try to challenge some of those positions that not only she would say, but her followers. So, but it's been good. It's been respectful, and I've enjoyed it. And I think these conversations are super important. So, yeah, without further ado, we're just going to get right into things. So, Nikki, go ahead and just introduce yourself to the people and tell us a little bit about you and how you came to, I guess, be an atheist.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again, Joseph, for having me. And Chris, it's so nice to meet you. I was really flattered when I found out you wanted to have a discussion. I love talking about these things. So the more discussion, the better.
Amen.
Yes. So yeah, my name is Nikki, and I go by Beat the Cult on Twitter and YouTube. I also have an Instagram and TikTok, but I don't really use those platforms as much as I'd like. Because honestly, a lot of my attention and efforts go into Twitter because it's always popping. So that's just kind of where I do most of my interaction. And I have encouraged people to definitely jump on the podcast and ask me questions because I want to explain that I am not just limited to speaking my opinion on Twitter. I definitely want to speak to people off of Twitter because I think that's more valuable. But just I was raised very religiously evangelical, and religion was a very integral part of my everyday life. Every lesson I was taught was underlined by the Bible. My parents literally don't care about anything else. I'm not being hyperbolic. They'll tell you the same, that Jesus is the center of their life, and it leaks into everything that they do. But unfortunately for them, it's a more toxic relationship with Jesus, and it became a toxic relationship with me as a result. But that's not what led me to atheism. That mostly motivated my departure from Christianity. The atheistic ideals I have towards God claims came from ongoing research and indulging in all of the information available, or as much of it as I could get my hands on, and just realizing that claims made just weren't really holding up. And that's how that kind of happened about 8 or 9 years ago, probably about 8. So as boring as that is, that's how I got here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. Go ahead. The floor is yours, Mr. Chris.
Yeah, my name is Chris, also known as K-Dub. I'm an artist. I do apologetics. I kind of got my hands in a lot of bags, so to speak. So for me, I grew up in a Christian home. The Bible wasn't really preached, but I'm in the South, so even Muslims are Christians here. But didn't really care about really the Christian faith, but at 19, I became truly converted and started actually caring about my faith. Started doing, obviously comes with that what's apologetics and defending the faith. If you're going to be preaching the faith, you're going to be met with controversy and people who disagree. So I really just started delving into apologetics and learning how to defend my faith with things like presuppositional apologetics, reading Greg Bonson, Van Til, just a lot of Christian philosophers on the subject, and really became strengthened in not the historical claims, but in the truthfulness of the Bible's claims. And so I'm sure we'll delve into a lot of that, but yeah, for me, man, it was just a desire to defend what I believe.
Kind of cutting out, Chris, a little bit. Sorry. Yeah.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me check.
There it is.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe I was too far back. Okay. But I think me and Nikki would agree, especially on this issue right here, is that more conversations like this need to be had, especially with atheists and Christians. I think a lot of time it's just gotcha moments on Twitter, memes, gifs, and I'm like, come on, let's like, hey, if you send me a meme, all right, let's talk. Let's talk. You know, like so. I'm definitely glad to be joined by you, with you, Nikki.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about both of you, is that you are willing to engage in these conversations, and not just have those, like Chris said, those Twitter gotcha moments. And so definitely wanted to get you guys connected on that. And I think as I spoke with you, Nikki, we even spoke earlier today, I felt like getting you connected with Chris was really good, because even in our conversation, some of the questions that you had and some of the questions that even other people had when they came up, Chris is well versed in those things, and willing to answer those questions. He's a bit more studied than I am, so I wanted to get you guys connected on that tip. So especially with I think, like even recently, some of the questions you were posing about atheism and Christianity in terms of how do we know, you would really push back on the perspective of the Christian of how do they know it's the Christian God, or the evidence per se for Christianity, or for there to be a God, and things like that. So I thought those questions are fair, and like Chris said, I think these conversations need to happen. So wanted to provide that platform.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. So I have I have an endless amount of topics that we can go through. So I'm not really sure where the best place to start is, but I feel like all these topics come down to, and you guys can help me if I'm wrong, they're going to come down to morality. I feel like it's going to be, well, who says, basically, right? And from the atheist perspective, a Christian would ask, why? And from the Christian perspective, the atheist is going to ask, well, why? So I don't know if that's something we want to get into right away, if we just want to go to a morality type of conversation, or if we want to move and just go right into discussing Christianity, because your channel, sorry, not your channel, but your Twitter is all about kind of picking apart Christianity. So I think we could even start there, just discussing some of the.
Put me on the hot seat. Let's do it.
Yeah, put him on the hot seat. What are your beefs with Christianity? What are some of the things that you think are immoral? I think you tweeted a few things about how even we are more moral than God is, and things of that nature. So,
I mean, as God is defined within the Christian Bible, I don't believe that God actually exists outside of that text, but just based on how it's. I hate to say he, and I know Joseph and I talked about that today. I really don't like. Well, that's besides the point, but yeah, that's just kind of my perspective, just based on how it's defined. But then again, that definition varies from person to person as well. I don't know if I don't really have a question. I guess it's just kind of how to kick off the convo.
So for me, I think even more foundational and more grounding to this conversation than the morality question is how do we know?
Yeah.
So like epistemology, right? What
How
like
do we know the God
anything,
exists?
anything. Not
Oh, generally.
let's even branch further. Like let's actually go deeper, right? What is our epistemic or what is our epistemology, right? Epistemology being uh our theory of knowledge. Like
Mhm.
how do you even know anything? And so right, because epistemology actually gets into the morality question. But I
Yeah.
think I
You
think
can.
I,
Sure.
I think I think, but epistemology also delves into things like metaphysics. It deals with all sorts of issues. Ultimately it deals with everything, right?
Yes, sure.
Everybody, and so this knowledge claim. So one of the oftentimes when I speak with atheists, they reject any kind of idea of absolute, ultimate, objective claims, right? Like it's we can't know. Oftentimes many atheists have stated things like it's impossible to know anything, right? You cannot
Or
be
I don't
you
think that.
right. So you can't know anything for certain, right? Would you agree with that?
Um, for certain. I
Because
think
if you grant that there is certainty, that grants objectivity, that grants ultimate, uh, yeah, it grants objectivity, meaning now you've grounded epistemology in something that is absolutely true, and it's no longer based on subjectivity. And so then I would argue now people are obligated to live by these objective claims, objective truths, right? If it is true that I cannot murder you, then I am obligated to right not murder you, right? It should not be, or it should be against the law. It should be against this moral code. And then that gets into realms of like universality of these objective claims. And so I know I said a lot right there, but I'm interested in your thoughts because I don't want to assume you're like the next atheist I've talked to, right? I kind of want
thank
to know
you.
where you're at, right? So because
Thank you.
I would want you to do the same to me. That's why I
Right.
say a lot of atheists have said this is just my general experience with atheists. They seem to have some kind of general agreement on what I just said.
So, regarding quote unquote objectivity, I would agree that we can know that there are certain things that we can rest assured of. And we may not have 100% certainty, but that doesn't mean we don't have a level of confidence that doesn't justify using that idea in our everyday life. So basically, we may not know everything or have absolute verification of everything around us, but we know enough to be able to operate within our world with enough information to live successfully. Is what I'm saying. So when it comes down to, you mentioned murder. So this is always such an interesting topic because murder, quote unquote, can be justified in certain circumstances. Every issue that we address has to be addressed individually. There's not really, and I believe that's why lawyers get paid so much, is because even when things do appear simple or black and white, there's always some nuance that needs to be evaluated as well.
That's why I intentionally use the word murder and not kill. So I think
Mm,
maybe we have a difference on different disagreement. I believe murder is always wrong, but there are times
mm,
where a person can be killed. Even the law kind of recognizes this. That's why they don't say. That's why the legal term is never kill. It's murder,
mhm,
right? Because that is actually, and the Bible actually gets to that definition as well. And so I believe it's always
mm.
wrong to murder, but there can be instances where, so every murder you killed someone, right? But not every killing
Right.
of someone you murder them, right? Someone comes in my home, right, tries to kill me and my family, and I take them out. I've killed them,
Mhm.
but I did not murder them, right?
I
So
understand that.
also, okay, so I'll just making sure we're on the same page there. And so
Sure. Even with the
a
definition,
little
it does
nuance.
specify unlawful. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
true. And even with the definition, it does specify the unlawful and
Hmm.
premeditated.
Hmm.
And even, let's see, unlawfully or with premeditation. In some cases, it is used synonymously with kill. But in
Correct.
this specific case, right, if we were to, levy a charge against a person, it would be for murder and
Correct.
not some type of justified killing.
Correct.
So, but even with that being said, I don't know if murder is absolutely, I don't even like to say the word wrong, or if murder is not, I don't know if murder is always absolutely unjustified. And that's just because I don't know in which all circumstances, in which we would be considering that if there could be one where it is justified. So I always leave that room for variance, and then try to make a solid decision or evaluation when I'm presented with a specific case, if that makes sense.
No, that I understand that. So right. So you would say in most cases, many cases, kind of maybe high probability and majority of cases that murder is wrong, but
Sure.
there could be instances you haven't been presented with that could change your mind about that, or
On that specific instance, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So is there an objective definition, objective moral grounding? And I know we're talking about murder, but this can be branched out into all moral topics, right? We don't have to stick with murder. We can go with other issues if you like. Is there an objective grounding? So, because I'll grant you, I don't know of every instance, right? I'm a finite being, right? I don't know of everything, right? You could present some stuff I've never thought about, but if I know the truth, right? If I know what something is objectively wrong, I don't have to know of every case, because
I would say yes.
yeah. So that's why I think it's important to ground morality in something that is objective, and I think it's important to remember objectivity is something that it's from without side, right? If I appeal, so if I say, hey, it's wrong to murder, but I constantly appeal to myself as the standard for murder, that's not actually objectivity, that's subjectivity. So objectivity deals with something outside of us, right? That's even according to the definition, so I'm not making this up. Subjectivity is dealing with, right, it's a grounding based on subjective. It's not ultimate, it's not universal. And so if we can ground something, so I think it's important to ground morality in an objective standard. Otherwise, this is how I've explained it. If morality is subjective, then I can't tell you you're right. I can't tell you you're wrong. If morality, and let me give it an explanation. It is a subjective standard that chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla. I can't tell you you're immoral for liking vanilla. I can think
standard as well.
But you give out. I do like chocolate ice cream, but
I mean, just compared to vanilla, but there are better ice creams.
Sure, but it's a little humorous. But the point I'm making is, I couldn't say you're immoral. I could say maybe you're weird, strange, you have bad taste buds, but I couldn't say you're actually immoral based on that subjective standard, right? Because there is no objective level for better ice cream. So when it comes,
let's cut to the, if you don't mind.
Let's get to it.
Let's jump to it. What are you saying? Well, okay. You tell me.
You can ask that. Think where you're going is good.
Okay. So my understanding, and I'll preface it by saying this, I do understand that there needs to be a basis for moral expectation, and that is where we come in, because I'm assuming, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to say that the Christian God and Bible specifically are the basis of moral objectivity.
Yeah, to be more, I guess, direct, God and what He has revealed to man, which is found in
And
Scripture. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Christian God specifically.
Absolutely. And so the
Okay.
reason why I would say that is because I am a proponent of presuppositional apologetics, Greg Bonton, Van Til, and I argue based on the impossibility. I argue on the basis of the impossibility of the contrary. Once man, and I don't know if you're familiar with these things. So
I am.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
familiar with presuppositionalism as
Okay,
well.
cool.
And I hesitate with it because I feel like it's a fertile ground for confirmation bias, because there needs to be a possibility that you're wrong in order to argue effectively. And if there's
based on that statement, would you be willing to argue for the possibility that you're wrong?
All the time. Oh my goodness.
With just that statement, not everything, but just that statement. So
I could always be wrong.
So it could be that we don't have to argue for from a starting point that we could be wrong.
No. I would say that I would hope that, even
you
though
see
you're
what I'm
saying,
asking?
I'm going to assume that you're saying that we could both agree that we could both be wrong. But
so you made the statement that kind of like we need to start from a starting point that we could be wrong.
I agree.
Right.
But I would say that presuppositionalism, presuppositionalists would agree or would assume that they are not wrong. And that's why they presuppose that what they're saying is correct and work from that basis.
Well, so I'm actually challenging the statement that we need to start from that starting point. Because if you actually believe what you just said, then you have to grant what I just said.
Not necessarily. I would say that
because you could be wrong about that statement, right?
Sure. And I'm open
which means you should be open to argue from the starting point that you couldn't be wrong.
So what I would say is I'm open to arguing from the starting point that I could or couldn't be wrong. I'm always open to the possibility of what direction a conversation could go. My understanding of presuppositionalism is that the proponents of it are arguing from the standpoint that they could not possibly be wrong. And for me, right. Okay. So I'm correct. Okay. So I don't
believe I'm arguing from, so I'm not presenting mere Christianity. I'm not arguing from a standpoint of mere deism. There's some God out there and we need to get right with some God. I'm arguing that the Christian God exists. He has made himself known and we need to all acknowledge him and repent and turn to Jesus Christ for salvation. That is
I understand that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making it clear. So
but that's not necessarily. So are you open to admitting that you could be wrong about that?
No.
Okay.
So why do I need
that to be an issue? Well, because there's an aspect.
I'll tell you. I'll give you another example. I know I'm not absolutely wrong about.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I'll give you another example. I know I'm not absolutely wrong about.
I'm not saying you're absolutely wrong. I'm saying, are you?
Or it's not even potential.
So you're saying there's no potentiality that you could be wrong about the Christian God?
Absolutely not.
So so what if I was speaking to someone of another religion and they said, there's no potentiality that I could be wrong at all about Allah. He is the one true God and you all need to come to him and show supplication. So you're both saying that you're.
Yeah. So just
the particulars of the religion are irrelevant. I'm stating that whoever's representing it, they're coming from a position of absolute certainty. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that and they are saying that. For mm-hmm. someone such as I in the middle, how do I determine who's right?
Well, for now, the only two worldviews on the table are Christianity and atheism. So in other words,
atheism is not my worldview.
You're an atheist, right?
I'm an atheist regarding a certain position, but my worldview is an atheism. I don't base my perspective on life.
Okay, humanism, naturalism.
I'd
you don't
say those
believe
are
in supernatural Christian worldview, so you're a humanist naturalist. That is the atheistic worldview.
No, that's not always, because there are Christians who could be humanists or naturalists. Also, those aren't my worldview isn't regulated to one particular ideal. It's a compilation of ideals. So I would say humanism and naturalism are a part of my worldview, but also skepticism and other concepts as well. But I would say you are right about me not incorporating any consideration for the Christian ideal, whatever that may be, because Christianity and its interpretation varies from denomination to denomination, from church to church, from pew to pew, from person to person. So, but based on that, I would say those people who identify with Christianity, they do consider it in some ways when dictating their worldview. But I would say I don't in any way.
Let me ask you this. Are you open to the possibility of repenting and bowing down to Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of sins and worshiping him as God?
So I don't know, because the Christian God has not been demonstrated to exist. And the reason I brought up
before we get to the evidence, I said, are you willing to go to that starting point? Pretty much, are you willing to be wrong and bow down and worship Jesus?
So those are two different questions. Asking me if I would disagree, because asking me if I would be willing to be wrong, absolutely. Because, and not to quote Dillahunty, but my goal is to believe as many true things and as many false things, or excuse me, to believe as many true things as possible. I don't want to be ignorant as much as I can. And now there are things I'm ignorant, of course, and there's so much to know, and we're not going to know everything.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But as far as understanding, especially about this particular topic, I'm very passionate about in general, not just from the standpoint of atheism, but just from the ability to discuss it, especially within our community. I don't think we have these conversations enough, at least not intellectually. So I am definitely open to being wrong. And when I say I'm open to being wrong about is, I currently believe that there's not enough demonstrable evidence for not only the Christian God, but God in general. That's my belief. Now, if I am provided with evidence that demonstrates the existence of the God primarily, and then extrapolating out to the Christian God, then I'm perfectly willing to accept that and understand that I was wrong in believing that there isn't. But that being aside, I am not sure if I would be open to repenting or going through that particular ritual based on your particular brand of Christianity, because first we need to demonstrate that God exists, and we need to demonstrate it's Yahweh, and then he's somehow related to Jesus. And then we need to demonstrate Jesus's divinity and the particulars of his existence. And even if I need to do that or not, and which do not. So I hope that makes sense. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Fair enough. You stated that you haven't been presented sufficient evidence. Would you? I don't want to misquote you.
Sure.
So throughout this conversation, I misquote you. Don't feel free to clarify if I got something wrong. But
sure.
You stated that you haven't been presented sufficient evidence. I think we even need to back up from that claim,
Yes.
This is why I grounded the conversation in ultimate truth, because evidence actually presupposes ultimate truth. You can't have evidence that's we can't even know where it leads to, essentially.
I think evidence doesn't presuppose ultimate truth. I think evidence presupposes likelihood. Because we could have evidence for something that seems apparent. For example, evidence that humans thought previously that the sun revolved around the earth, and the evidence was pointing.
It wasn't actual evidence.
No. It was right. No. It was evidence showing.
Evidence is something that is true, right? Like you can't have. So you can have false evidence.
You can have evidence that leads you to a false conclusion
I agree
based
with
on
that.
your interpretation of the evidence. Now, the evidence was leading us towards a conclusion that was close to what we thought it was representing. But as we continued to learn and research more, we discovered that the evidence was pointing to something related, but not exactly what we thought. So I personally don't believe, and like I said, it could be demonstrated otherwise. But I don't believe that there's an ultimate anything. There's always room for nuance, and there's absolutely a possibility that you could be wrong, even if you say you're not. But I believe that even that there's a possibility that you could be wrong. I believe that.
Do you know that ultimately?
No, I said I believe it. I don't know it, but like I said, I don't believe that there's any such thing as an ultimate knowledge. So I can't, even in my own even in my own proclamation, it would be disingenuous for me to say I don't believe there's anything such as ultimate knowledge, but then turn around and say.
Sorry. So go ahead. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, it would just be disingenuous for me to say I don't believe that there's any such thing as ultimate knowledge, and then turn around and say I ultimately know that you're saying that, you like that's not honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the realm of science, right? Any good scientist that is looking to see where his conclusions lead to know that he's right
We're there.
Has a hypothesis, right? Like if I
Sorry, I always get caught up on like such annoying things, like just I always get it, and I'm not even. I always
sorry,
hate
he, she,
even
the scientist. Sorry,
because they're
I'm
always
sorry.
like the
It,
atheist
I
he
don't know.
says the atheist he says, and I'm
He,
like the
she
atheist. It
pronoun.
could
Sorry, I
be.
don't know.
Well,
They,
it's not even
them.
that. It's just I always feel like whenever he is presupposed, it's almost like there's no even possibility a female could be interested in these things.
I'm not using that in a masculine sense. I'm just in a general sense. He doesn't always refer to a male, so it's like, sorry. If a scientist, she is a good
They
scientist.
it's fine
Okay,
because it could
they.
be male or female.
There
It
we
could
go.
be
There we go.
yeah, it could be either.
So
I
if a
wouldn't say she
scientist,
because then that eliminates males. Is what I was
okay,
just
if a
saying.
scientist, they have a, if they are looking to see where their conclusion is factual, they have a hypothesis of things they expect, right? Will we agree
Things
with
that
that?
things that they're looking for. Well, you know what? Let me see.
So like a
I don't.
scientist knowing if, I mean, you
I
brought up
wouldn't
this.
want to say they expect it because that introduces bias. I would say that they do have the hypothesis. They are looking for verification of it, but that's expectation. Okay, I'm not going to really get caught up on that. I feel what
So
you're saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, so to answer the question, does God exist? What are some
Sure.
of the expectations, right? What is your hypothesis if God existed?
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
There's a lot of different gods. Humans.
The Christian God. Yeah, the only God there is. I'm not arguing for thousands. I'm only arguing for one God, right? So the Christian
I'm
God.
being a little quirky when I do say which one, but
I understand.
I want to make a point
You're an
that
atheist, so right
right.
right now
So
there's only
all
one
of
God on the
them,
table. There's only one.
sure, and
I'm
that's
not defending
why.
polytheism, by the way.
Of
I'm not.
course, well, of course not. Even
So
though the Trinity is a very interesting concept, but
it's not polytheism.
um,
We can talk about that, but
it depends on the. Well, okay. I honestly, okay. So
I've
I
had
was.
much conversations about the Trinity, as Joseph knows. So, but
Well,
yeah,
to be honest with you, I wouldn't be interested in debating that internal
yeah, that's fine.
fact because that's like us going to like was it Comic-Con or something, and we show up and you're dressed like Luke Skywalker and I'm dressed like Luke Skywalker and we sit down and I'm like, in episode 6, obviously this is what he meant and this is what Lucas was talking about. You're like, no, in episode 6, that's not what Lucas was talking about. He actually wanted this, this, and this. And so that to me is like this, like if we're going to argue the Bible, I'm not really like that. To me is arguing like, well, what did Lucas mean in episode 6 and was it translated in episode 7? And what about the,
So are you saying it's impossible to know what the biblical authors meant?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that debating that is like debating the nuances of Harry Potter or Star Wars. Like I'm not going to debate, did Darth Vader actually, kill Luke's mom and Leia's mom? Because Leia said she remembered her. So was she alive when she was born? And no, because those things aren't even demonstrated. Like there's no demonstration those stories even happen.
In the
There's
Bible?
no demonstration. It depends, but what I'm saying is it's fan fiction to me. Like I'm not going to debate because here's what I'm saying.
It seems like you're trying to make a connection with the Bible and Comic-Con.
Yes, I am. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying that. I'm sorry, that sounded so dejected. You're like, oh, I'm sorry.
But
yes,
but doesn't
yeah.
But even with that kind of sounds like what ultimate reality is and objective ultimate truth is, because you can't say it's like and then say, well, I don't know what ultimate truth is. Well, that sounds like an ultimate truth claim there.
No, me drawing a comparison doesn't mean I'm ultimately claiming.
Let me ask this: is that comparison truthful?
It's an opinion of mine. It's my opinion. I don't. I don't know, because like it hasn't. That's a weird question. A true opinion. That's almost
Well,
like
you
what
stated
I say that Ben and Jerry's strawberry cheesecake ice cream is better than vanilla. Is that a true opinion? No, I don't
well,
know even how to answer that. A
because
true opinion.
the assumption is that you're kind of getting to that the Bible is just kind of myth and it's not rooted in history or in reality, any of that, like
Well,
Comic-Con. But
let me
there
say
there are
this.
atheists who wouldn't agree with you. Bart Ehrman, for one, actually, one of the things he said about Jesus is that when it comes to works of antiquity, he said we have more proof that Jesus existed than any work of antiquity. So
I will concede that there's possibility that Jesus existed, but that's not necessarily my point. My point is that for me, even if the Bible, as it does, represent the existence of some historical people, such as Herod or Caesar, or some historical locations, such as Jerusalem and Persia, that doesn't speak to the validity of the divinity being claimed that's associated with it. So, just like, okay, so maybe a better example wouldn't necessarily be Star Wars, because that's like outer space, but maybe like Spider-Man. Maybe, New York is a real place. Sure. Main Street is a real place. Maybe they even mention a mayor that existed during that time, or we can draw a parallel from that person to like Giuliani or someone. But that doesn't actually add validity to the claim or the idea that there's an individual swinging around on webs and, who has superhuman strength and got bit by a radioactive spider. So what I'm saying is there are some things in the Bible that are like like I said, the mentions of the geographical places and the people, but that doesn't mean that the fantastical claims are true. If that
so
makes sense.
so do we have to start with the point that naturalism is true?
We have to start with the point that observation is so far demonstrated to be the best way. So naturalism, I would say the scientific method. Now, I don't really, okay, where's the God? Okay. Like, I know that I'm not trying to be like wild.
So here's my,
we always have to go up and down, all around, over the river and through the woods.
Here's my ultimate argument. And and there's a reason why we have to get into the weeds, because we're talking about evidences. And I'm arguing for the impossibility of the contrary, because the atheist says, "Give me the evidence. Just give me the evidence. Give me the evidence." But at the same time, they're saying things like, "Well, there is no ultimate reality. There is no ultimate truth. You can't I can't give you an evidence if you don't have a worldview that can actually understand or accept ultimate reality, ultimate truth." And so
you're claiming the ultimate truth is Christianity. Other people are claiming something different. Until there's demonstration.
I don't have to defend every other worldview, because right now, because you keep bringing up every other world, there's only two worldviews on the table. There's only two.
There are two worldviews on the table, but there aren't only two worldviews in the world.
That's right. And because right now, I don't have to defeat 1,000 worldviews.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm drawing a comparison between you and another person who tells me their worldview is accurate. From that perspective, I know they're not here to defend their position, and I wouldn't even expect you to try to defend them. My question is, you are claiming you are right without a doubt. Right. They are claiming they are right without a doubt. I'm saying neither of you have met your burden of proof. So,
burden of proof presupposes ultimate truth, which you don't have.
Burden of proof presupposes the particulars of a claim. There's no such thing as ultimate truth.
Is that ultimate truth? No. Then you just contradicted yourself. If either way you answer, you contradict yourself.
It does not matter.
Yes, then
it does not matter if I contradict myself. It does not matter at all. The point of the matter is this: there is a possibility you could be wrong, and yes, I do believe that, and I know that as well, and I understand that you say that there's not, but you're going to have to demonstrate that.
But hold on. You just argue that you can contradict yourself, and that's just fine. Why do I have to present
truth? I'm not saying that.
Why do I have to present evidence that's truthful if you can just contradict yourself? See, you're arguing on the basis of my worldview.
My inability. No, I'm not. My inability to formulate a cogent. my inability to formulate a cogent argument does not negate the fact that the person claiming the deity exists in this form needs to demonstrate that.
Sure.
My inability to remain consistent, my faults, does not contradict the fact that you are the one making the claim the deity exists, and thus you need to demonstrate that.
But it demonstrates your worldview is incoherent if it's contradictory. Can you have true contradictory? Can you have truthfulness and contradictory?
So here's what I'm saying.
Can I give an example, Nikki?
But it needs to be specific to the one issue we're discussing, not my whole entire worldview. My whole entire worldview is not based on atheism. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's based on naturalism and humanism. That's what I'm debating.
There are different,
that breeds your atheism. That's the foundation.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No. Those things, you know what? We really honestly need to get to the matter at hand, which is the demonstration of the God you claim exists.
And I'm saying before we get to these evidences, we have to have a worldview that can understand and make sense of evidences, which you've already admitted. Yes. Your position could be contradictory, which we've already eliminated your worldview from the table now. Because if truth is truth, then it's consistent. It's not contradictory.
Okay.
Well, for example, let me give an example with the laws of logic. You have the law of non-contradiction, right?
If you don't mind, can you reiterate what I said that was contradictory so I can at least evaluate and correct if necessary? Because I want to be consistent.
I appreciate that, Nikki. You stated that there is no ultimate truth. And I asked you, is that's ultimate?
A statement of fact?
That is.
That's a statement of knowledge.
That's a statement of ultimate knowledge as well, right?
That's
ultimate
true.
That's true. The fact that you made the statement, you've already, with all due respect, you've exposed your hand, so to speak. You've contradicted.
There's no exposure of hands here. There's no. This is not a game.
Nikki, I don't mean to. I'm not putting motivations behind that. I think you're genuine, but I'm just saying when it comes to that statement, I'm not going deeper than that statement.
I hope not, because it seems like you're attempting to say because I may have misspoken or made an argument that's not coherent, that just that your God exists or this whole thing goes out the window.
No,
that's not what this is based on.
My point is it demonstrates that your worldview cannot.
No. It demonstrates that I misspoke and did not say something correctly. It doesn't demonstrate that how I interpret the world is overall incorrect or anything like that.
Are you willing to recant the statement there is no ultimate truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that is a statement of knowledge. No. That is a statement of knowledge. What I will say personally, I do not believe there is ultimate truth. That is what I should have said. That is what I said.
Ultimately true?
No, it's just a belief.
It's what I'm saying. You contradicted yourself.
No. I didn't contradict myself. Yes. I would have contradicted myself if I said, I know there is no ultimate truth.
Anytime you open your mouth, you're making a statement of an ultimate truth.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
You just did.
I'm saying your statement isn't true.
That's an objective claim. That's an ultimate truth claim.
I am objectively claiming your statement isn't true.
But you've already said you don't believe in ultimate truth.
No. You're misdirecting the conversation.
I'm not.
Just because I disagree with something you say doesn't mean that my worldview is false. That what I'm saying to you is your statement, as you just said it, is not true. So and that's based on our conversation. You said, I can't even reiterate what you said. So much.
What do you believe that is ultimately true?
I don't have an ultimately true belief.
There we go.
Dude, listen.
So how can I demonstrate?
Here's the thing.
Nikki,
if I ask you, here's the thing.
Allow me to answer.
I'm not going to, because you're playing this game. And this is the problem with. No, you are. And this is the problem.
But you don't know anything for certain. You've already admitted that. So you actually don't know your.
No. From what I am seeing and what I'm interpreting.
But you could be wrong about that.
I could be, but here's what I'm interpreting. My interpretation is that you're playing a game. And why I feel that way is because instead of just coming outright with the evidence, you want to go, well, your worldview won't receive it. And if you think there's no ultimate truth and you can't possibly, no, here's the thing. If I ask you to present a cat to me, you're going to present a cat to me.
I don't have
If I ask you, If I ask you what a cat is, you're going to show me what a cat is. That's the point. And if I ask you what a tree is, if I ask you those things, you're going to present it. But in order to try to make a point,
let me explain this, Nikki.
Because there has yet been no demonstrable evidence that I've seen, and I believe there hasn't been. You also understand that, and that's why you're going over the river and through the woods.
I reject that claim, but especially since it's not grounded in ultimate truth. But
there's dude, I don't believe that
there's no what?
I don't believe that there's anything such as ultimate truth. Now, would you please get to the point of demonstrating even a little bit of evidence?
How can I actually present a cat to anyone who doesn't believe in ultimate truth?
That's irrelevant.
No, it's very relevant.
No,
it's very relevant. There's nothing I can get to a person who doesn't even believe in ultimate truth and ultimate reality and objectivity.
So why are we talking?
So that's a good point. But here's the point I'm making.
Why are we talking? Because you're not even open. You're not even open to determining if you're possibly wrong. You're not listening to what I am saying. You're misconstruing and twisting. No, it's not about respect.
What did I twist?
It's about, you are trying to say that simply because I have doubts about there being ultimate truths that we have, that I have doubts about that there's nothing that I can understand as more than likely evidence in our environment. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying you don't know anything for certain. So it's kind of irrational.
I have confidence. No, it's not
confidence. What is confidence? Confide from the Latin, with faith, meaning you know it.
No. It means that I anticipate it based on the information I've been given. I can be wrong, but more than likely, based on inference and induction, I can find out what, based on understanding patterns, I can pretty much anticipate more than likely what something is or will be based on.
You just guessing.
For example, today. No, I'm not guessing.
It's just probabilities.
No, that's not based on okay. Maybe there's something wrong, or maybe there's not something wrong with looking at probability, but that doesn't mean that something couldn't change, but it means that it more than likely will be as it has been. Not that tomorrow an asteroid couldn't fall out of the sky, but more than likely, based on what we understand and what data has shown, more than likely that won't happen. But so based on that,
that's based on past experiences determining the future.
We need to, yes. And that's
how do you know what happened yesterday is based on what the future tomorrow will hold?
Well, it's not just what happened yesterday, but we have several days prior to that.
Several days, yeah. You can go back as far as you like, as you existed.
So I don't know for sure that tomorrow that the world won't end.
Let me explain, just because I don't. Let me explain what's going on here. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is that you're when you ask for evidence, you don't ask from a you don't ask from a neutral standpoint. You have biases just like I have biases. I admit my biases.
I would disagree. Okay, I would disagree with both of those statements. I would disagree that I'm not approaching it from a neutral standpoint, and I would disagree that you are not biased.
I actually said the opposite. I said I am biased. Everybody's biased. Everybody has commitments and presuppositions to their worldview. Everybody.
I would say no. I am actually coming at this from a neutral standpoint. I want you to provide me with some type.
You already showed you weren't.
Listen, if you could just please present what you're saying, present the evidence for what you're saying, demonstrates the God's existence. I would love to just discuss that. I feel like this is a bit of a straw man trying to focus on my views or who I am. I feel you have, but I feel like this is. I feel because first of all,
I don't want to talk about feelings. I want to talk about truth. Which you've already stated that you don't know anything ultimately. You don't believe.
Why is that a problem?
Because I'm talking to you.
Why is that a problem that I'm open?
Because you're demanding evidence. You're demanding ultimate truth, but then say,
no, I'm not demanding. I'm not demanding ultimate truth.
So it can be false.
Yes. So give me something to deem whether false or not. Just give me anything.
But hold on. That statement there, you said false or not.
It may be or not. I don't know because for some reason you're really focused on me instead of just providing.
I'm talking to you.
I know that. I know that. But what we're
your worldview is going to interpret everything I'm saying.
My worldview.
Yes, you have a worldview. Are
What
you
is
denying you have a
wrong?
worldview?
No, I'm trying to listen. We live in the world together, right? And this is kind of the issue with these discussions is the reason why. And I know exactly what's I know I am interpreting what's going on is this. Because you do not appear to have evidence for the deity that you worship, you are playing around and avoiding the subject as much as possible.
I believe I have ultimate evidence, but you don't have a worldview to accept evidence you demand.
I do have a worldview to accept evidence because I accept evidence
Nikki,
for other things that are claimed.
Nikki,
so
remember when I got to the issue of objectivity and subjectivity?
I already told you I reject that. I already said I reject. I do not believe, not that I don't know, but I do not believe that anything can be known ultimately or absolutely. I have told you.
So why demand evidence for it?
Because I need to at least know if it's possible. I need to at least know.
All things are possible, right?
Well, then give me something.
You've already granted the possibility of my worldview. You said it's possible because you don't know for certain. But it's already possible. I don't have to present evidence. You've already granted it.
That's not what I said.
Let me ask this: Is my worldview?
I don't know.
Let me ask: Is my worldview ultimately wrong?
I don't know. You haven't shown me anything to judge.
So that's the fact that you don't know, that's no. You don't know.
No, I'm not saying no or yes. I'm saying I don't know. You have to give me something to judge. And what you're not doing is that. You're trying to
judge what, the truthfulness of it?
The validity of it.
The ultimate truthfulness.
It's not about ultimate truthfulness. It's about what the evidence points towards.
Evidence doesn't point to anything.
It does. No. Evidence points to likelihood. Evidence points to
we do the interpretation of the evidence. Evidence just stands there. Evidence needs to be interpreted, and we interpret based on our worldview, presuppositions, things like that.
Something to interpret, please. That's what I'm asking you to do.
But does it have to be false? True? I say okay. I'll give you evidence. I say God. I say God exists. That's my evidence.
Lovely. I don't believe that. Okay. So because you say God exists, that's where right. So you say God exists. I don't believe a God generally has been demonstrated to exist as people typically define the God. So with that being said, what God do you believe exists? Let's move down to that.
I've been on an argument for one God.
Christian God, right. Okay. So, all right. I do not believe the Christian God exists. Mm-hmm. You may be the one to show me something that is evident. It might be. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
What percentage of probability would you accept?
I don't know. You have not given me
any good scientist has a hypothesis on what they should expect given their conclusions.
But I don't know what to expect because you haven't defined.
You're not a good scientist.
Scientists have environments to observe. Scientists have things that they can draw conclusions from in order to know what to expect. You have not given me any of that. What you've said is because I don't know what would constitute evidence because you haven't given me a description, then that means that you don't have to give a description.
No.
And if
you don't have evidence for anything. You don't have ultimate evidence for anything.
I do not believe there's ultimate evidence. So
there we go.
We're not able
so why can I give you anything?
You need to show me something that allows me to make a conclusion as to what is most likely.
Why do I need to? Why?
Because we're having this discussion.
Wait a second, Nikki. Let's back up a second. Why does evidence need to be demonstrated for a truthful claim?
Because you're the individual. You're the individual.
That's an objective statement you just made.
No, it's not. Listen.
So it doesn't need to be made.
I believe it should. And this is why I do.
Who cares?
I would like to.
I believe vanilla ice cream is better.
I would like to explain why, if you don't mind. You make choices about your life based on this. You have perspectives that you speak to based on this. And you also believe that my life that this affects my life and that this would affect what would happen to me potentially after death. If I'm not wrong, is that correct? Are those things correct?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the statement.
The reason this is important and holds more weight than just ice cream preferences is because you have certain ideas based on this concept of God that promote or that contribute to your promotion or demotion of certain ideas such as abortion, transgender ideals, how you vote. That affects me as a lesbian woman. It also affects me as a woman if I were to be raped or something and needed an abortion. Additionally, besides those factors, you also feel that this would possibly affect my afterlife, that this is something that I need to come to terms with because it's important ultimately. So that's why I ask you for evidence.
So here's why I said, so here's why it's so important. Because if there is no ultimate truth, this conversation is as silly as vanilla versus chocolate.
That's not true because
Yes,
we don't live.
Is it
no,
not
we
true?
don't live. No,
Nikki,
it's not.
Is it not true? Is it?
What you just said, I don't believe to be true, and here's why.
But now you're making it subjective. You keep appealing to yourself. That's why I brought up the initial conversation.
As you said a million times, you're talking to me. So what I feel it should be important, right?
Yeah, but what is true is more important.
I agree with that.
If Nikki didn't exist, would it be true?
I don't know, because I am not speaking, as you said, you're not speaking to other people regarding their views, you're speaking to me. So here's what I'm saying. We don't live our lives based on ultimates. We live our lives based on what evidence has shown to be most likely. No, okay. I don't know if that's true or not, but generally, people don't live their lives based on ultimate. They live their lives based on what's been demonstrated to be more likely up to this point. For example, we go about our business. We take our kids to school. We go to work and do these things, pay our bills in anticipation based on what we've understood up to this point to be true, or likely, not true, but likely, that tomorrow will be tomorrow will be like today. But that may not be the fact. But we don't live based on the possibility that the world will end. We don't live based on those possibilities, more than likely, because generally speaking, human beings don't go about their lives as if the world's going to end tomorrow, or the next day. We go about our lives.
Millions of people live like that.
They are planning in some way. And what I'm saying is that most people, and I hope that those people, if they are anticipating the world to end, I hope that they are able to speak to someone about that. But most people plan ahead. They get life insurance.
What do you mean by that?
If somebody thinks the world's going to crash and burn tomorrow and that's how they live their life, I wouldn't say personally that that's a healthy way to live, but that's my opinion. If people go, but I'm also thinking of doomsday preppers and people who are extremely fanatical, but that's besides the point. My point
I thought you were trying to say people like that are crazy. That's what I kind of sounded like.
I wouldn't say they're crazy. I would just say they may need to talk about that or just maybe evaluate why they feel that way. But what I'm saying is we live our lives based on what we've understood them to represent up to this point.
You keep saying we. I don't
humans,
think you can,
I'm saying humans in general. Well,
I don't think you can speak for everybody, given that you don't believe there's ultimate truth. How do you know what the next person
I'm saying more
thinks?
than likely. Well, I would say that given life insurance is a pretty popular thing that's sold, and given that people save up for college funds, and given that people plan ahead to buy homes and things like that.
That doesn't mean that. I mean, I do all those things, but I still believe that tomorrow, if Jesus wanted to, he can come back. That I can live in two. Those are
if he does, right. But the thing is that you still prepare just in case that's not the fact, and that doesn't happen.
He will come back. Whether it's tomorrow, I don't know that.
Okay, well, I don't believe that. So, but
you don't believe in ultimate truth. So,
like I said, I don't. But that doesn't mean that I can't.
Know. Is knowledge based on knowing?
I already
or probably
said that.
Let me ask you this: is knowledge based on knowing or probably knowing?
I would say knowledge is based on.
Can you say you know something if it's likelihood that it's not true? I can give you an example if you like.
No, I heard your question and I understand it. Can you say? I think that there should be a caveat given. I know to the best of my ability, but I also like to say belief. But I would say I know to the best of my ability. But I once again would like to redirect the conversation back to the evidence.
The demanding I present something when your worldview.
I don't demand it. If you'd like to,
yeah, you've been saying, give me evidence. That is a demand. I mean, well, that's fine. You're demanding it.
You unfortunately are not presenting it. So I'm not.
You don't
sure
have a worldview that can ground evidence. You've already you've rejected everything that evidence stands on. Ultimate truth.
No, there's no ultimate truth. Excuse me. I do not believe.
I know,
I cannot say
that Imago Dei coming out of you. Everybody knows.
I don't know what that means.
That means you're standing on the Christian's ground to even have this conversation.
That's not true. That's because other people disagree with you, and I don't know if you understand this. I don't know if you understand this, but you do not live in a bubble. There are people around you.
Let me give an example, Nikki. So for example, this conversation has presupposed absolute logic. Is it true? No.
Listen to me,
Nikki. Eat fish, cat under the sea. Books 3 times 1. Right? There was my proof of God. You said it doesn't have to be logical or rational.
You didn't preface that. You just started.
There we go.
You didn't preface it. You just
proof
started
of God, right? I demand you accept it since I presented you with ultimate truth.
You didn't preface it. You didn't give me any.
I don't have to preface when I give you truth.
I don't
think you deny that this conversation had to be logical. You denied. I gave you an illogical. So it does have to be. So it does have to be based and grounded in logic. Ultimate logic.
Not ultimate.
So based on what I determine something is logical, it can be grounded in that. So eats cats, fish, blue, 1, 2, 3, 55, Talk Everything podcast. Am I right?
So this is a game. That's what I said to you.
I'm demonstrating.
No. What you're demonstrating is that you are
logical. So I gave you an illogical.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
So it has to be logical.
Yes, I would like for it to be logical.
Not what you would like.
No, Christopher. What I'm saying is that for us to draw,
but I don't have to have it right now.
All right.
Nikki, you're so.
Are we gonna actually converse like adults? Are we gonna continue to play games and jump around
To be fair, I don't think you even understand the conversation we're having.
I do understand the conversation we are having, but what I'm asking
you want me to give you evidence that's logical, truthful, and so it doesn't have to be truthful.
No, what I'm saying is
it doesn't have to see. That's why I keep going back. It can be illogical.
Well, primarily, that's a problem we need to address as well.
Okay, go ahead, Nikki. And
so what I would like for you to do. Well, let's both sit in silence until neither's cutting the other off.
Okay, so this conversation you said it doesn't have to be logical, which now says
I didn't say that.
So it has to be logical. As soon as you say it doesn't have to be logical,
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
I'm asking you both ways, and now you're not wanting to answer the question.
I'm not even being given the opportunity. It's because you're the person claiming what I believe.
I would ask.
You're the person who's doing it. So if you know what I believe, you go ahead and speak for both of us.
It's a question. I would ask anybody who's been watching.
You're making claims. You're saying you say it doesn't have to be logical. I did not say that. Is it true that I'm making claims? Yes, you are making claims.
There we go. You just refuted yourself. Congratulations.
I think I understand what happened between Cy Tonbruggen Kate and Matt Dillahunty and why that conversation
Matt Dillahunty doesn't have a worldview to have a conversation that's grounded in
I think I understand, and I think
neither do you.
That's not true.
You have a similar worldview as Matt Dillahunty because you started this conversation quoting him saying you want to accept as much truth as you can. Now you don't have a worldview to accept to know what truth is.
I have a worldview.
You should have said
more as like
probability. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
not what's true.
That's fine. Okay.
Well, Nikki, real quick. So when you ask for the evidence, when we had talked before, I think in Chris, I argued from Romans 1:20 about where Scripture talks about creation itself testifies to God's existence. It may not get you to, I believe in Jesus, but in terms of evidence like that. Again, I'm arguing from Scripture, but I know it's like a simple argument to people that because I believe that everything that we see, that we touch, that we know is created. I didn't think it was outlandish to believe that the universe was created, for example, right? And that's an argument that is like, oh no, because nature isn't created. That assumes that nature isn't created. Does that make sense? Like So when we were talking, I was arguing from like Romans 1:20, where I do believe like what the scriptures say in that creation does testify to God's existence, and that is evidence that God exists. I think when you look at the world around you, it's so clear and evident that there had to be a creator, and I know that is something that is like not really accepted, right? So that's something that you would hear and be like, not enough. Like that's not enough. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is a specific claim that is being made that I can evaluate. And I can say, based on that claim, I would not agree that it demonstrates the existence of a God, or I would not agree that it demonstrates the existence of a creator.
Okay.
Thank you for being specific, so I could respond to a specific claim. I feel that...
Based on what, though? What's your basis?
Based on evidence thus far, demonstrating that things are naturally occurring, and it's very possible.
How does
for
that?
It's very possible for things to not be naturally occurring, but based on what we have observed up to this point, and it's okay. It's okay for perspectives to change. It's okay for us to learn and progress. If you're standing on an interminable view that I can't possibly be wrong and everything is ultimate, then that limits you in my perspective.
Does that limit you?
If I was doing that, I would say yes, it would.
But that's an ultimate claim you're making. You're saying
it's not an ultimate claim. You've got to. I feel that.
Let's go to the creator thing. Let's go to the. Are you saying that creation is eternal?
What?
This is a question. I'm not assuming a yes or no.
First of all, I don't see evidence that things have been created. So if we could,
creation is eternal.
I don't really understand what you're saying.
So
I said that you keep saying creation, and I'm not agreeing that things have been created. So maybe we could use
Chris
another
is saying
term.
Creation, like he believes it's creation. I believe it's creation.
Sure.
Would you? Yeah, right. So you would more so say, like, so would a better way for you? Would the question be, do you believe the universe could be eternal or is eternal? Does that make sense?
It could be, but I don't know. I'm not a physicist.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That specifically is a topic I'm not well versed on.
So how can you say how can you say that this isn't sufficient when you lack certain knowledge to actually examine the question about creation?
You were talking about the universe. You didn't mention trees or anything within
creation. That's what I said.
Oh, so you're talking about things in general. You're not talking
things
about
that have been
specific.
Created.
So I don't know if those things are eternal, but from what I can discern, there's not enough evidence pointing towards the fact that there was an intentional creation. Now, as far as I don't know, hon. I would like to redirect you to Lawrence Krauss. I also don't necessarily feel that, and it always devolves.
We evolved from starfish, and our ancestors are fish.
He is the person who, he's a physicist. I don't think so. There's a common misconception.
Christian physicist.
Okay, well, that's fine. He still knows more than I do. But basically, I feel there's a conflation of the universe in itself and its initiation with what happens here specifically on Earth. So Krauss is not a biologist. I know he touches on those topics because I know why. Because evidence demonstrates that gods have been invented to try to explain things we don't understand. So Krauss does have to kind of field those questions. I believe that evidence demonstrates. I also believe you're extremely inflexible and unwilling to get to the point, but that's no. I believe that evidence.
People have false opinions all the time.
Sure, they do. You're right.
It's not grounded in reality.
I don't necessarily. You know what? You talk about people's worldview. Basically, you're saying because my worldview is flexible and I'm open to being wrong, that we can't have a discussion about what is more likely in our environment.
No, that's not my argument at all.
Every time I try to explain, every time I try to say that evidence thus far has not demonstrated this, in my perspective, you're saying, well, since you have no perception of what could be ultimate, we can't talk. And I don't believe that's true. We need to be able to have
a conversation. We can't actually make truthful statements. We can make statements
that are more than likely. we can make statements that are more than likely true with the possibility that they are not. And that is how we live our lives. And I don't understand.
I don't live my life like that.
Okay. Well,
Many
that's
people
how
don't.
you know what? I would have difficulty accepting that. I'm sure we would have to get into nuance, but I would have difficulty accepting that people don't go throughout their lives based on previous experience, and even our own bodies and how our minds work picks up on previous things that, and this is.
You live your life based on objectivity and ultimate truth. Yeah, you do.
I don't believe that's true.
Yeah,
I don't believe that's true. Okay. Well, I don't believe that's
true.
Let
me give you a reason.
And I think you need to demonstrate that.
I'll give you a reason. Because you brought up induction earlier, and this is what I actually, wanted to talk about too. Induction is, matter of fact, let me give you actually a definition.
Once again, we are off the topic of the God, but I understand. I believe I understand why we are,
This is all about God. You can't see. This is about this.
About my the worldview. Reason. You know what?
Based on God.
I think
God being logical, truthful. You're assuming my worldview when you say we should be logical.
I don't believe that is true. Okay.
We don't believe.
And you're gonna need to demonstrate that only the Christian.
You don't believe what is true.
I do not believe that you have a monopoly on logical.
No, me. I didn't say me.
You said your worldview, so I'm assuming that means you, right?
My worldview existed prior to me existing.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're the one representing it. So I would say
it existed prior to me. I didn't invent it, is what I'm saying.
Okay, well, you're repping it now pretty hard. Yeah. So my point.
Team Jesus. Your creator.
I don't believe that to be true.
The reason why you can make logical claims and use logic.
I don't believe that to be true. You're going to need to demonstrate.
Is logic true? Is logic ultimate? Is it
universal? I don't know how to answer that question because you know what? I did not. Okay. Here's the thing, Chris. If you don't mind, could you please give me something to evaluate so we can actually have an honest conversation?
We already gave you
about
one.
It.
And you say you're not a physicist. So even when I gave you some evidence to entertain you for a bit,
you were talking about to entertain for a bit.
Yeah, I gave you what you want. You're not an expert in that area. You claim so.
Because first of all,
talk about based on my evidences.
When I responded, and
ultimate knowledge.
I believe that you, based on your definition of God being all-knowing, I believe based on the definition that you also lack ultimate knowledge. But
no, I lack omniscient knowledge, but I have sufficient knowledge. There's a difference.
You know what?
I know the God who knows all.
Maybe you just made that's an arrogant statement. I feel that's an arrogant statement. Maybe you said something that I should. Maybe you said something that I should probably have thought about.
What's that?
Sufficiency. So.
You changing your worldview now?
I never said that I had a view or worldview where I thought things should be ultimate. So
I know that's what I'm actually saying.
We're agreeing on that.
You claim that you could not know truth, any truth claim for certain.
Yeah, and
efficiency means you do know it for certain.
No, I feel like that's fair. I think what I'd like to have done is so let's go back to the creation thing. Okay. Right. So based on the definition of God presented, that it is a anthropomorphic agent, and that's what I'm understanding. You keep referring to him as a he or him as a he, and that you can relate to him, and he has emotions, like human-like emotions. Based on that definition, I do not see, based on my observation, that is a viable definition or viable explanation for the environment in which we live. When it comes down, well, first of all, we're applying personal traits to this deity and saying that there's a human-like, anthropomorphic, and you say he and Jesus, and specifically, and those are
not
males.
Human-like, God-like.
But you said to me, or what you believe that Jesus was God and Jesus was in the form of a human, or God was in the form of a human.
He came in flesh. He hasn't eternally existed with body parts and things.
Right,
the Father doesn't have body parts.
Okay, so the myth.
So we deny God is a human.
So why, if you deny he is a human, why do you keep referring to him in anthropomorphic terms?
Because that's how he's revealed himself.
Okay. So you're saying God is not a human, but he revealed himself as a human?
So this is basic Christian theology when it comes to the incarnation.
I know that. That's why I'm asking you to please.
And I'm not
to specify what you think.
Before Jesus Christ came into flesh, he existed, not as a male with body parts.
Well, the Bible represents a male ideal, Yahweh as a male, Yahweh as having very carnal.
The Bible literally says God is not a male. Literally says that.
I'll have to look that up.
God is not a man that he should lie.
Or the very interesting.
Man. Literally says that.
A son. He's a son, but not a man, and a man, but not a son. This is what
you're conflating. You're conflating two things. You're conflating the incarnation with his eternality. You're saying, well, since he came as a man, he's always had a body. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the interpretation of God as being presented by its followers and by the Bible, that this is an anthropomorphic deity with human traits. Now, whether or not this person is with human traits, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, he likes the smell of meat. He wants, he has personal. Exactly. That's my point.
It's a joke I'm making.
I know. Okay, I know. I know. But that's my.
He created it. Right, it's good. He loves what he creates. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
That's so funny. That's an interesting extrapolation. But based on the Bible and how it defines this thing, it is a
God.
Human-like, sure, whatever. Every religion has different concepts, but the Bible's
God
depiction
is not human-like. You are bringing.
Then where's the smell of? Hey, I'm not the one that said he likes the smell of meat and likes women and likes fruit and all those. I'm not the one that said that. I agree.
So if God enjoys his creation, he's a man? That's absurd. That is
no.
absurd.
I didn't say he's a man. I said that he's anthropomorphized. Yes. And that
anthropomorphic language doesn't make you the thing that's being anthropomorphized.
It doesn't make you that. It doesn't make you that, but that's how people represent it, and that's how the text represents it.
People speak of their cars and male like or she like doesn't make it a female. But that's what that's what you're doing.
No. I'm saying it doesn't make it that, but I'm saying humans attribute those traits to make it relatable for them. I despite the God's existence or not, it could be whatever, but I'm saying that humans add these traits to make it relatable for them. And that to me is an indication that more than likely God is a creation of humans, a creation to try to explain their environment as best as they can. And that's fine.
I don't get how that leads to that conclusion.
So the text that we're discussing, the Bible.
Because you're actually wrong about what you're saying, because God is not human. Like the Bible denies that clearly.
If the Bible says in another place that God is not human-like, but then simultaneously says that he's able to smell things and desire things, then it's contradicting itself.
No, because not only humans can smell.
It has human emotions. It relates to humans. It speaks to humans. It shows itself to humans. Is it an animal? Is it like Ganesha? Is it like
God? You're assuming God can't have these qualities. That's the assumption you're making.
I'm not assuming it can't. I'm not assuming it can't. I'm saying that I think the reason that it does is because humans invented it as a concept to try to explain the world.
You're making major assumptions in your conclusions.
It's not merely a major assumption.
You're saying, here's your argument. God smells. God
depicted as smelling. Depicted. There's no God thus demonstrated that I can see. I do not believe there's no God thus demonstrated that I can see.
Okay.
But
we're talking about my worldview. Okay. So okay.
I don't know about this.
And you're saying the reason why
God
is a man, God is a human, is because he smells and he enjoys his creation.
The enjoyment is a trait that humans.
And so does God. God enjoys things. Literally, when he created,
I'm sure
he sat back and enjoyed it.
I'm sure he's depicted as doing that, and that would make sense. Being that humans,
What if we're made in? So again, you're assuming your conclusion.
well, what is my conclusion?
Your conclusion is God is a man. God is a human.
That's not my conclusion.
What is your conclusion?
My conclusion is that humans, as they depicted this particular God, is
It's
that
very
the
human-like.
God is. Yeah, that's my conclusion.
That's
Is
what I
that the
said.
people? No, you said God is a man. That means that there's a God
I said
existing that
human.
is a
I literally
human.
said I changed.
Whatever.
I said God's a
Okay.
human.
Okay, God is a human. That means, based on your statement, that there is a God that exists and is a human. I don't believe that.
I don't
do
believe that.
believe. I know that. You're just saying that's what I believe. I'm saying that's not what I believe.
That's what you believe about the Bible.
No, I believe that humans created the concept of a deity, and that deity's creation is human. I do not believe that there is an actual God out there to evaluate as human or not. I'm saying that the character as depicted is depicted as human. So those traits, whether the individual is or not, if demonstrated to exist, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the depiction of this deity specifically as
But
humans
those aren't just human traits. Again, that's your conclusion. I mean, that's your assumption you're making. That because God smells and he enjoys things, that and he is depicted, then that's the Bible describing him as a human. When the Bible denies that.
Okay, if it the Bible says
theology,
a lot
this
of
is
different.
not, this is
The Bible
this isn't the
goes
area
back
you want to
and
get
forth.
into theology. This is where I would.
And like I said earlier, arguing about Darth Vader's
this is where
this and that is not of interest to me, because I would first.
I thought you recanted that statement.
No, I really used a better example, which was Spider-Man. But the arguing of, did Aunt May this and did he really die and does he know that? I don't really have a lot of interest in the nuance in this conversation, because what we need to do. Okay, fair. But what we'd like, before I can even get into that, I would like to be able to evaluate something.
You already gave you one.
You did. And I said, based on my understanding of the world in comparison to the Christian God's depiction, I do not believe that the Christian God is related to creation. Now, if we want to or whatever you say it is, if you want to
I didn't hear
discuss,
why, though.
I just went into why.
The human, but you were wrong about that stuff. The humanness of God.
I'm actually not.
That's why you didn't want to get in theology and stuff. You kind of backed off that statement, I thought.
No.
So you want to stand on the theology argument now, because you're going into the Bible when you say God is a man, or God is a human. Sorry, that's a theological statement.
It goes a little bit further. Well, what I'm trying to say is this: it goes a little bit further than that, because the Christian God is not the only God that people worship, and I know that's the one we're talking about.
Say that again.
The Christian God is not the only God that people worship, the only concept of God that people worship.
Sure. But there's only one on the table right now.
Allow me to please continue. I know that we're discussing that God, but with that God being discussed, we also have to discuss that God's origins and the concept of the God and how that came to be. So that means we need to start looking back and doing some research as to what more than likely led to the invention of this deity. So with that being said,
are you claiming that the Christian God has not always been God, but he became God? That sounded like that's what you were saying.
What I'm saying is I don't believe the Christian God exists. What I'm saying is that, right. So how can I make a statement about something that I don't believe exists?
Because you're talking about it. So it's weird. You'll go into these statements and make strong accusations about the Christian God, and then when I press you on it, you'll say, well, I don't believe in that God. And so you don't have to answer the statement you just made.
No, I think there's a misconception here. When I'm talking about the Christian God, I'm talking about the deity as it's depicted in the book. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So with that, I'm not talking about it actually existing outside of it. And I think you're misunderstanding the delineation.
No, I understood it. And that's what we can go into the Bible.
I feel that if you understood, you would stop reconstructing my statements as saying this God, this.
This God according to the Bible. Absolutely.
Oh, well, then if that caveat's added, then okay. Well, but that's not what you said.
What do you think I believe of God outside of the Bible?
But we're talking about right. But you do, yeah. But like I don't.
As defined by the Bible. Yeah, sure.
Okay, but you also, the validity of that deity for me doesn't go further than the book. For you, it goes further, and I feel
Yeah.
like you're
But it's based on the Bible.
conflating. Yeah, right. I know that, but I feel like when you try to like restate what I've said, you're saying it as if I also believe in the God, and that's what I'm trying to make sure is clear. I don't
know
believe that God
I know you're an
exists.
atheist. There's been no confusion.
Sure, but the way you restructure the
you're a human
statements don't
naturalist.
always reflect that. The way you
Because
restructure the statements haven't always reflected that. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
because
Even when
when I ask you a
reconstructing
question
it.
about a God, I'm asking you according to the Bible that you're analyzing and trying to critique. I know you don't believe
Okay.
in God,
Okay,
or your
that's
claim
fair.
is that you don't believe in God.
So the Bible, continuing. Yeah, I do claim. I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
But you could be
So
wrong about that.
it's a belief, not a statement of knowledge.
Our beliefs, is your beliefs derived from true statements or false?
It depends, I think, because I could definitely believe something based on
Falsehood.
I could definitely, yeah, it's possible.
How do you know
I
this isn't
think
one of them?
It could be. I thought that's what we were hoping to discuss, but for some reason, I get this
I believe
feeling that okay, that's fine. Let's continue to discuss it. That's
Yeah.
cool. I think that's fine. But so the Bible as a whole, as far as the nuance of the book, which I'm learning more about, and I'm not really well versed in it quite yet. I'm more right now looking more into the origin, just kind of as the religion, not necessarily the particulars, but humans, as we understand thus far. As we continue to evolve and grow, we begin to ask questions about our environment. And the original deities that humans worshipped were more worshipped in an animistic way, or Lord have mercy, totemism, excuse me. But as we kind of learned a little bit more, the deities started to become a little more personal. That's what evidence shows. So based on that understanding.
Are you talking about the people in the Bible or just in general?
I'm talking about people in general.
Okay.
So that's why I prefaced it by saying I know how I was raised, and I know what I was taught, but how you're raised and how you're taught doesn't necessarily align with how proponents of the religion actually interpret it. So I'm having to go through and kind of deconstruct that and make sure that what I understand is actually, I guess, aligns with popular or most, I don't even like to say popular opinion because every denomination varies, but at least
I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't agree with most popular teachings and versions of Christianity. We kind of talked about that.
Right. And that's why I'm kind of
Joel Osteen is popular. That's most people in America. That's
I didn't think of him.
Oh yeah. I mean, he has millions of
No, I know that, but I'm saying when I talk about my knowledge of it, I'm not talking about Osteen. And that's why I'm trying to make sure I say this.
Even like the TD Jakes and the Creflo, those
aren't the ones I'm even thinking about.
Who do you think about?
Those that are constantly cited, like Strobel or McDowell or Craig or Turek, those are the ones that I'm.
Those are just apologists. They're
and those are the people who
few people know them.
And that's what I'm saying. That's actually the point I'm trying to make.
And I wouldn't agree with most of them.
Sure. And that's fine. But those are the individuals who are making the arguments. And therefore, and that's fine. I think it's very interesting to watch people as they discuss the intricacies of the religion. But my point is that I'm saying, yes, it's not a layman's. What I'm trying to say is right. It's an esoteric view. I'm trying to become more well-versed in it. But I'm starting with the foundation of religion generally. And what our scientific research has more than likely demonstrated to be factual. And that is that as humans kind of grew in intelligence, started moving into an agricultural way of living, that the deities went from being more animistic and more ancestral and shamanistic into more monotheistic. And
the Bible rejects all that. The Bible.
I know it does. I know it does.
So it actually doesn't start from that foundation. It starts from the fact that there's one God, and they reject all the pagan gods. And so
I know there's I know that. That's my point. And I'm moving that way. So that's my point. That's actually kind of what I said. As humans have developed our species more and learned more, the gods have moved from animism, shamanism to more monotheistic gods, and now it's kind of a bidding fight for like Islam and Christianity. So my understanding is that those gods are derivative of the original gods, and therefore there's really, to me, not anything special, because the Christian god's about to be pushed out by the Islamic god, and then after that it's probably going to be some wild soccer mom astrology or whatever. But like, I'm being facetious, but
I get the joke.
yeah, if it's not Christian, I feel like all the the Western world's like moving away and into kind of like astrology. But what I'm saying is
paganism.
That it's kind of a reverting to some of those traits.
Yes,
I think that they're like, sure. I mean, a lot of texts say a lot of different things, but I think it's interesting. Yeah, they do, and I think there's kind of like an infatuation with like the mysterious and like almost this presupposition, no pun intended, that the Eastern world is like mysterious and it's cool to like have chakras and stuff. I mean, that's my interpretation.
Okay, you're talking about a lot of people are kind of fascinated with the chakras,
right?
And the third eye and the
right. Kinda. And even I went through that phase myself. So
was this after you after Christianity, or kind of was that before? Okay.
Yeah, that was part of my journey. Unfortunately, I have tattoos to prove it. But oh god,
a bad reminder. I see.
It's like, well, it's not. I mean, thankfully, the view is kind of
just
so
a
nebulous. Yeah, and the view is so nebulous anyway that I can kind of apply it to any area of my life. But my point is that I'm sorry for rambling. That my understanding is that the Christian God is derivative from previous deities, and therefore, I have a pretty and I actually have to admit I don't have that much of a strong understanding quite yet how Christianity really spread. I'm reading more about it, and honestly, it's so mind-blowing to me. But that's my understanding. So that's why I can't really speak of the deity as if it exists for me.
So a good book on just church history and the context of which it was situated in is this book right here, 2,000 Years of Christ's Power by Nick Needham. And so, one of the interesting things that atheists always bring up, and not you, but many atheists have brought up, you didn't do this, but is that Christianity was created to control the masses and to pretty much gain power. Well, if you actually do some reading in church history, that statement is very laughable, because Christianity was around the time where they were heavily persecuted by the Romans, really up until the 4th century.
Okay.
And then Christianity became a state religion, and I disagree with a lot of that, but nevertheless,
I did read that.
Yeah,
but that's pretty much as limited as Constantine's.
Yeah. But people need to read before when it comes to church history, because that's actually when it started. And so,
right. That's what I want to delve into more.
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
This will be a good book. Obviously, there's some other books on when it comes to church history. But Christianity was a persecuted religion. And one of the things, because you talk about, Yahweh kind of being an evolution of the other gods,
like Epic of Gilgamesh. And
so one of the interesting things is when it comes to Yahweh, you talk about in the Old Testament, I believe the same Yahweh of the Old Testament is in the New Testament.
I would agree with that. That's what I understand.
Okay, because you do have a lot of atheists who try to situate this idea of what Marcion, who was an early Gnostic, that say that there are two different gods, but that's another conversation. We agree.
That's actually not even how. I mean, through my continued readings, I know that's not true, but that's actually not how I was. That's how I was raised, that they were one and the same as well.
Okay, good. But one of the interesting things, and you see this in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament, is that God situates Himself in a conflict of always opposing nature's gods. You read this in Isaiah chapter 40 through 48, like that major section is God opposes he's not trying to be like them. He's like he's opposing them. Yeah. You also see this in the New Testament as well, where one of the things interesting about Rome was they had a phrase called Kaiser Kyrios, right? That means Caesar is Lord.
Mhm.
Jesus situates himself in the context of that, and right, and it's Jesus or Eusis Kurios, right? Jesus is Lord, and just
Sure.
opposing the culture and
Sure.
and Christianity. Christianity is always in opposition to the culture, right?
Sure. Well, I mean,
And
that's how you get
well,
famous, right?
yeah. That's funny. Um, so so one of the things interesting about Rome was they would allow Christianity as long as they would accept Rome, right?
Sure.
You can believe Jesus all you want, just accept the thousands of the rest of our gods, right? Accept the sun god, moon god, all this.
Well,
And
there's some conflation there with the Christian holidays as well. So I understand that.
interesting. And so Jesus, Yahweh, always puts himself above the gods,
I know.
not in a sense of competition or just this evolvement, but no, before there was this belief in these gods, I existed, so to speak. Yahweh says,
Of course he
um,
does. I mean,
and
yeah,
so,
that's an interesting tenet of the religion. It makes it more appealing, and there has to be a differentiation for people to be able to recognize before they can.
but the false
Um,
gods weren't in competition. There was a moon gods. It was like parts. That's how the pagan gods. There was no like uh, god like Yahweh where.
no, monotheism is a relatively recent concept, and that was one of the appeals.
Well,
And it made um
I would disagree with
as
that. But yeah,
okay, I would.
paganism is very early on. Polytheism is very early on. I wouldn't
That's
disagree with
my
that. Yeah,
point. When I say relatively recent, I'm being a little. I
facetious.
mean, it's like 7,000 years. You know, like yeah, like it's when I say relatively, I don't mean like within the past couple hundred years. I'm talking like
Gotcha.
7,000 or so. But from what I understand, and I know that the Christian God is depicted as being all everlasting and all of that, and that's fine. I mean, that's part of the sales pitch, and to make it
God isn't trying to
appealing.
sell himself to humans. I'll tell you that.
No, but there's no there so there hasn't been demonstrated a deity to sell itself, and that's part of my issue, and an issue I do bring up a lot is that it is the representation that is the issue. And there's a
What do you mean by? Are you saying like how Christians represent him, or how he represents
how a
himself?
lot of well I don't observe a God to be able to represent itself. So when I talk about representation, I'm talking about the followers of the religion. Those are and there's a misconception that people have is that, oh, you're going against God. And it's like, I don't believe a God exists. So I have an issue with the way most of I don't even know if it's really most, because
Many.
Many, yeah. But I mean, because like my brother, my uncle, my aunt, they're really sweet. Joseph, they're like good, as far as I can tell, decent people and aren't like hateful. But like, I do have an issue. I don't know. We may have some issues actually, but we actually might. But yeah, but just going back to it, from what I understand, the Christian God is derived from previous religions.
Let me ask this question: do you believe that humans can ever know anything for certain? I know you say now, because most atheists, and I'm not trying to project this onto you, when I've talked to them, they say the goal of evolution, humanity, is to get to the point where we do get to actual objective truth. But they would say we don't know it yet.
I don't believe that that's possible. I honestly, because and the reason I don't believe that is kind of for a physical reason. I don't think the earth is going to last long for us, because there's so much we need to know.
Doomsday sounds like a doomsday prepper. I'll just mess with you.
No, I mean, I'm talking about like Andromeda crashing into the galaxy and Milky Way, like not anytime soon. At least I hope not. And based on previous days, I would assume that tomorrow would be similar to today. And that's the point I'm making. I don't believe that there's ultimate knowledge, but I do believe that we can take what we understand and live based on what's more than likely true. or what's more than likely true, and that could always change, and I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think that just because that's, we may not be able to assert ultimate knowledge, that we can't make informed decisions about how to live our lives. That's what I'm
It seems the decisions we make that are informed are based on things we know.
To the best of our ability, yes. But I don't necessarily think that, I believe that, I would say to the best of our ability. I'm sure there's plenty we don't know, but based on what we
don't we know, when you say we don't know anything, since we don't know anything for certain, that conclusion follows is that we actually don't know anything for certain.
I believe we don't know anything for certain. I say that there's always, I think likelihood and probability
How'd you know
is
that?
important. Did I say I believe or I know?
Do you know we don't know anything for certain?
I don't believe I do, to be honest. I don't believe I do. I think it would be, I think it would be presumptuous for me to say I'd know for certain. I don't believe that anyone should say I know for certain. I believe that people should say I know to the best of my knowledge and from what has been demonstrated thus far, but there's always a possibility.
So you wouldn't say you're here right now?
I know the best of it.
As Matt Dillahunty has argued that we're a brain in a vat, he could be stuck in the matrix getting these thoughts fed to us, right?
Yeah, it could be.
He actually does not have objective, reality to say he knows he's here.
I would say based on, well, sure, I've heard him say that, and I actually I was going to go to the, I don't remember the specific name, but the next Thursday is, and the last Thursday is basically how do we know that we've existed past last Thursday and we weren't just given these thoughts. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But I don't live my life based on that, supposition that I don't have these thoughts previously. I live my life based on, the understanding that to the best of my knowledge, this is how my life is, this is who I am, and living in accordance with that knowledge up to this point, though may not be ultimate, has resulted in positive returns. For example, like when I was working very hard to lose weight, as I lost the weight and learned what worked, I continued to plan ahead. And based on what I learned, I was able to be successful. That could change. Of course, I've run into issues and I need to reconstruct and reevaluate. But it's about the accretion of information and then regurgitating that information and seeing what the results are. And as we continue to learn and move forward, we can say with to the best of our knowledge, this is how things seem to be. But there's always a possibility. But I don't think that just because I believe that there's no ultimate, that there's not things that I can be sure of.
How can you be sure of things you don't know? That's
my point. I'm trying to say that I may not always have that 100% assurity, but based. Yes, that's what I'm saying. But I am. So when Dillahunty, and this just kind of goes to the nuances of Christian theology, and oh my God, I showed Joseph all these freaking books I bought. He's like, when you gonna read those? I'm like, bro, I don't know, but that's. So I listen to a lot of Dillahunty, Craig, of course, and one area that I would like to get into more is logic. I'm not, as far as the idiosyncrasies of that topic, it's very, very intricate, and I want to learn more about that. But for me, I would stand on that. I don't believe we can have ultimate knowledge, but we can have enough information to give us as accurate as we can discern of a perception of our environment. And based on that, that's what I've been asking. I'm trying to understand kind of the evidence. But that goes to the, like I said, the creation, quote unquote, and that's how we got to the.
If I can make some recommendations, when you say you want to get some books on logic, and two
Yeah.
books that are helpful, and I brought his name up earlier with the Christian Scientist, Jason Lyle.
Jason Lau.
This book here, it's called Ultimate Proof of Creation.
Oh wow, that's one hell of a claim.
Yeah, and this book here called Discerning Truth.
I've heard of that. Who wrote that?
Both same author, Jason Lyle. Both of these books,
Okay.
both of these books actually get into fallacies and things like that,
Yes.
and logic. And so the
Sure.
laws of logic, and this is what I was asking about earlier, the laws of logic being grounded in truth. And so, for example, if something is contradiction, I would argue that it is not true, because
Okay.
truthfulness is objective. I think you kind of even admit that by saying we can't know what truth is. It seems that's an admission that you can't know objectivity.
No. I'm not saying we can't know. I'm saying that I would say not ultimately.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think it's a misrepresentation and almost kind of like an assertion that you're godlike to know
No,
ultimately. Well, if you are 100% true, quote unquote, and there's no chance of
well,
you being
I'm
wrong.
not 100% true. My claim isn't grounded in me. Remember, that's why I started off with the objective or subjective definition and line of reasoning. I'm not claiming it's true because I'm saying it. I'm not appealing to me for the veracity of my claims.
So what are you appealing to?
I'm appealing to God. That's what I've been doing.
So I don't
God is
believe that God
logic. God is
exists.
logical. He's ultimate. He's universal. That's
He-
these are the basis of the laws of logic, morality, reality. That's what I've been doing this whole
So
time.
just because you're saying this is logical, I would say I don't believe that makes it logical just because you're saying it. I
What is?
believe that.
But you don't
I
know it,
believe.
right?
What do you mean?
You don't know what is logical.
And here's the tricky thing. I can verbalize what is logical based on what I've learned. But as far as getting into these particular, like, what is logic according to Socrates and Aquinas and like, I'm not there yet. And I don't even know why I would need to be if there
Because-
was something.
because you're
I
making-
don't know why I would.
Because you're using
Wait.
logic.
I am, but I don't know why I would have to be well versed in all of the particulars of it in order to use it effectively. And I don't think that's how everyday people live. I believe that you think everyday people understand the intricacies
do.
of logic and go through. Oh, they.
No.
Oh,
No, most people don't
okay.
think.
Maybe
Most
I'm-
people don't think past 5 minutes of yesterday or tomorrow. So,
What
but-
I'm saying is, I don't think everyday people can go into like 200, 300, 400, 500, like millennia back on the study of logic and philosophy. That's what I'm trying to say. I believe that the way people move through life is mostly logical because of, and that's, I believe that it's mostly logical, but I would say that I would like to, I don't believe a God exists. I haven't really, if anything, this has more solidified me in my belief that that it doesn't exist, because we have yet to even get to the topic. There was that one thing we discussed about creation, quote unquote.
We've been on this topic
And
the
then
whole time. So I've been grounding my argument in this whole conversation in that God is absolutely logical, ultimately truthful, and ultimately
I know
moral.
that.
And you rejected all these things.
Yes, because I would like for you to please, before you can make these claims, I would like for you to give me something to evaluate regarding its existence. And the one thing we got was once again, always it comes down to this, the existence of everything, which I said I more than likely, based on what I understand, reject the existence of the deity, because it appears to me that the deity is derivative from previous religions. So
this is why I started the conversation on grounding our claims in epistemology. Remember, I started on epistemology, the theory of knowledge. And so
you did.
So all the claims, all what we've been talking about has been an epistemic conversation based on truthfulness or falsehood. And you've given up the floor to where evidence can exist, and that's truthfulness.
No, evidence points towards what's most likely true.
No, true.
What's most likely true. There's always things that can change. And I have a bit of curiosity and
Can
trying
the laws
to
of logic
understand.
change?
I don't know. I don't know that. I'm not well versed on that subject. So I don't think my ignorance in that area.
I'll give you an example. The law of non-contradiction. Can a tree be in a place at the same time and in the same way and not be in a place in the same way and the same time?
Asking these ACT.
Can
I just be honest? I don't know, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I really don't care about that.
You don't care about if a view truth is contradictory or not?
I care about that, but I
That's
have
what I'm
difficult.
asking.
I do care if a view is contradictory, but I don't care to play games. I don't really want to talk about.
It's not a game. It's a law of logic. That is something we use every day. Laws of logic.
I agree, it is, but I would like
law
to.
of non-contradiction. Yeah, you use that every day.
I agree, I do, but I use it every day in ways that can be discussed, and I would like to redirect once again back to what you said about grounding things and your epistemology. And I would say that I believe your epistemology is grounded in falsehood because I don't believe we've demonstrated the Christian God exists in order for you to ground your epistemology.
Know ultimately. You can't say my view is false since you don't know what
I said I don't believe. I said I do not believe.
I like chocolate ice cream too.
Okay. Well, I guess we're not really going to have a discussion then because we're just kind of going to play.
We had a discussion and I thought it shed a lot.
I think here at the end of the day, here's where we are. You have done a beautiful and elaborate dance, and
Is it true that I've done that?
It's my belief you've done a beautiful. See, this is the problem here.
I believe it's raining outside.
Okay. Well, as far as we know, based on evidence, is it raining?
No, it's not. So yeah, who cares what you believe? What's true?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's evidence or that it's more likely raining. Oh, it could be. I don't know what's going on down there.
It's not.
Okay. Well, okay.
My point is, you believing something and the truthfulness of it are two different things.
I agree with you on that.
So you keep appealing to you keep going to a subjective. You keep appealing to yourself on why it's right or wrong.
Well, to be honest with you, I've also said as well that what we can observe that more than likely points to a conclusion. That should give us enough information to work on, and that is how
you're on a mission.
That's fine. That's what I know that.
My point is, you don't actually know it.
Why is it a problem?
You don't actually know what you're saying is true or not. This is just your opinion.
No. Okay. I'm not. I don't think I've made. Have I? Let's redirect here.
Okay.
You're the one who's claiming that God exists, right?
Yeah, you're claiming he doesn't exist.
No. I didn't say that.
That's what an atheist is.
I didn't say that God doesn't exist.
So you're not an atheist.
I said I don't. No,
you're an agnostic.
That's not. No. I'm an agnostic atheist, which means
those are contradictory terms.
Not as far as I understand. So
being the derivative of no, theist being God, no God literally means no God. No God exists.
Okay. I don't believe
agnostic is a claim no, gnostic, knowledge, no knowledge of a God exists.
I know.
So you're actually an agnostic, not an atheist.
I am an agnostic atheist because I do not believe a God exists, but I don't know if one does. But you've already claimed to know and believe a God exists.
We can hold contradictory terms, right?
Those aren't contradictory. Belief and knowledge are not the same thing. I can believe something but not know it. And that's what I'm saying. I don't believe a God exists.
I'm dealing with knowledge. And that's
okay,
what
right. I know. I'm saying that. I'm agreeing with you. When it comes to knowing if a God exists, I don't know. But if it comes to believing one does, or if you ask me, do you believe God exists? I would say, no, I don't. If you ask me, do you know God exists? I would say, I don't know.
I'm actually bringing this conversation outside of subjectivity.
Well, if you're asking me
about
my knowledge of God, I would say, no, I don't know.
True? that you have?
I don't think that a belief, this is my
Beliefs
specific
aren't true.
belief. So I wouldn't say, you're asking, I don't think I can quantify that as true or not because it's my perspective on this specific question.
So
So, but if you're talking about me making a claim of knowledge, then I would definitely have to elaborate as to that and go into, well, is it true or not? If I say I know a God exists or doesn't,
so
then
is your
that's where
belief is the belief that you don't believe in is the belief that there is no God true or false?
I don't believe that there is no God.
So you believe there
I
is one.
No, I believe that evidence hasn't yet been demonstrated. I don't know if there is one or not. I don't know what, based on definitions, this is such a nebulous topic, but I don't know. Like, I just would like to, in an honest, straightforward way, be presented with claims that I can evaluate.
I have.
And
I have. One of my arguments has been, I started off with this quote: "The impossibility of the contrary. Once you reject God, you're reduced to absurdity. You're reduced to
possibility of the
illogical."
contrary. So I have not made I hope I haven't made a claim that something is impossible or not, because
So
I
no,
don't.
that's not what I mean by the impossibility of the contrary. The impossibility of the contrary means it is impossible that the contrary position, meaning that the Christian God doesn't exist, could be true. Once you reject the Christian God, you're reduced to I would argue, I know you would disagree. That's fine. That's why we're having conversations. Once you reject the Christian God, you're reduced to absurdity. You're reduced to saying things like there is no such thing as ultimate truth, which is an ultimate truth
Oh,
statement.
I think, and that would make, based on your statement, like most of the world absurd, and which I feel is a very arrogant thing to say.
Well,
Because
is
there
it
are
true that it's
other.
arrogant?
I said I feel it's arrogant.
I mean,
I
I feel a little
yeah.
cold. Doesn't mean it's immoral to say that.
So are you basically saying that because some things my opinions are not worthy of consideration because they're not
You're not
like
grounded in truth.
definitive statements?
They're not grounded in
Me
truth.
calling you me calling you arrogant is a perspective.
Okay.
And
it's not an insult
right.
because it's not rooted in truth and reality, even according to you. It's
Okay.
like saying you look
So
nice.
just because
you look nice, you're an arrogant. Yeah, they're equal
well, I
subjective
guess
standards, opinions.
based on, not really, because based on what we understand arrogance
Oh, it's true?
based on what we understand arrogance to look like, I would say it's
Objectively?
more based on the definition that people agree upon.
Is it an objective definition? Or is it arbitrary?
I wouldn't say arbitrary. I think, because this is a good question. I have thought about this. Because there is no.
What do you mean?
So, because we can't be sure about the deity that people claim exists to be the root of an objective claim, we do have to find some type of equals ground to stand on. And I believe that's probably what the issue is with our conversation, is that you immovably claim that the deity exists and that you stand on it. I haven't seen something that shows me that it does. So I don't think we can come to terms, but I think that such in the case of definitions and things like that, well, basically, such as well-being and how we live together and exist. Thankfully, we have a collective mind. We can discuss certain topics and kind of come to conclusions based on what they mean most of the time. And based on what arrogance means most of the time and how, you and I and others would understand it, because we do need to understand what each other's talking about. If we don't, we can't have a conversation. So based on that, I would use that depiction to define your behavior.
So I'm probably arrogant, but not really arrogant.
Yeah, you're being. Yeah, I would
probably
say
or really.
I don't think that backing me into a corner regarding that doesn't negate the fact that you are exhibiting traits of what someone would define as arrogant.
Subjectively or objectively?
If the standard that's been set by others has been agreed upon.
So subjectively?
Not really, no.
Yeah, because you're automatically appealing to remember, I granted the definition of objectivity being outside of oneself. So whether 10 people agree with it or no one. Someone could be a rapist if everybody disagreed with it.
Right. And I believe
Someone could be
that
a slave master if everyone said, "Oh, I'm not committing slavery."
But how do we define slavery? How do we define rape? We have these concepts that we agree on, and therefore we move forward with these meanings. Like I said, we move forward with the evidence we have and the information we have and make
That's a good question. Would you say rape is objectively wrong?
When you say objective, how do you mean?
Like I've been using it this whole discussion. That's ultimate.
Is it
universal?
always wrong?
Yeah, to
is
rape
it always
a woman
wrong at all times in all
Just
places?
a woman?
I'll use a woman for this example. I mean, you can think of a man being raped, sure.
There's plenty of men who are raped.
That's
in
absolutely
jail.
a fact.
So there's unwillingly, I would say.
You don't know.
No, I wouldn't say I don't know.
If you're being consistent with your claim, your belief, sorry, that you don't know ultimate truth, you would have to say you don't know. That rape is always wrong. Objectively.
Maybe I don't. Maybe that's something that 90% of the time, 99.9% of the time, yeah, I would say, but I don't know of all potential situations, and that is okay. I am not claiming
rape could be okay.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you said.
What I said it's okay that I don't know. That's what I'm saying is okay. I'm saying it's okay that I don't know.
You don't know if rape is
situation. No, I didn't say that. I said that 99.999% of cases that I can imagine, yes. But like I said, there's always that tiny bit, and that's what I'm trying to account for. And as someone who has worked in this field, and I really hate using it as an example because I feel like it's exploiting like a really sensitive topic. Being a woman, meeting with women who have been raped, who have had their ears bitten off, just horrible, horrible situations. I really hate that it's trying to be used as a gotcha to try to like entrap a person.
It's not a gotcha. It's a real life example.
Yeah, but I think it's being used as a real life example to try to get someone. And it's usually...
No, because I don't think you tell these women that 99.9% what happened to you was more than likely wrong. You tell them that it's wrong.
Well, when I hear their account, yeah.
So if you heard that a woman got raped, you would say, "Well, tell me before I actually know if it's wrong," or would you say,
"Usually they come to me and this is such a dishonest way to progress."
It's a
it is. No, it is a real life conversation.
Is it true that it's dishonest?
The way, yeah. You're being
contradicting yourself. You just contradicted.
Honestly, at this point, I'm just. Can I be honest with you? At this point,
I would hope so.
Because you are so determined to try to
expose your worldview as false. Yes, absolutely.
I don't.
Everybody has a worldview. Saying you don't have a worldview doesn't mean.
But you're making it seem like my worldview is monolithic. There's a lot of different things. You are saying worldview.
It's contradictory.
No,
it's
listen
irrational.
to me. Okay, well,
from your own admission.
No, that's not what's happening here. What's happening here?
You have to allow for that, remember? Because you can't be arrogant if you say no or yes. Because those are objective answers. I want you to be consistent with your worldview.
I'm having issues with the audio. Say something. Say something else.
Can you hear me? Check 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's like. It's like staticky. No, it's like staticky.
Am I right, Joseph? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're staticky on my end too.
Oh man, what's going on? Can you hear me now?
Can't hear you, just staticky. Hello.
Yeah, you're staticky. I can hear Nikki. Okay, yeah, you're a little staticky when. Again.
Is he coming back?
Look at the 3 feeds, the 3 windows all messed up.
Yeah, I see the 3. Yeah. Let's wait for him to come back.
There it is. Try this again.
I'm still staticky, huh?
No,
you're great.
You're good.
All right.
So back to your assertion, I have a lot of difficulty being boxed in as like this is the only way to define me or the only way to consider what I'm saying. I would say, in trying to, and I appreciate these thought experiments. I just question if they're done in a way, or I question their intention, because we have discussed one claim for the possibility of your deities existing. We did.
No, we've done
Remember
a lot.
the
We've done a lot.
The one claim that I asked for.
We've done a lot of claims.
Regarding the God's existence, we discussed
We've done a lot.
Okay, well, what other ones did we talk about?
I've already named them. I said one was creation, one was truth, logic, morality, reality. We discussed a lot.
So you claimed, right? You made these claims, but I haven't seen, or I haven't seen like a demonstration of them. The creation one, we did go into detail about that, but claiming my God's logical, that doesn't help me differentiate between.
You want me to present an illogical
does not
God?
Help. Oh my God. Wow. Claiming my God is logical does not help me differentiate your claim from another person saying their God is logical.
Remember, so, I don't have to, because you don't believe in them, so it's irrelevant. You're an atheist.
It's not, because
you're not a polytheist. Now, if you're a polytheist,
I know that, but you two are making there are different people who are making claims to me, and I know they're not.
And you reject them too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying. If you would allow me to progress in my statement, I will confirm.
But I'm saying I don't have to defeat every worldview to talk to you.
I'm not asking you to do that. I'm actually just kind of asking you. Oh my goodness.
You're saying other people.
I'm not at all. I'm actually really literally not doing that at all.
Okay.
If you would allow me to say,
I'll be quiet.
I'm saying I've heard people say the same thing that you're saying. You don't have to refute their worldview, but I would like for you to give me something that allows me to at least refute it. That's what I'm saying. I don't expect you to do it.
You can't refute it if you don't have the truth.
To be honest with you, you
can't refute nothing. A refutation presupposes you have an objective truthfulness in your counter argument.
I don't believe
this is basic debate.
Is an ultimate truth. I know that, and I'm talking to you. I know that.
Debate presupposes logic. It presupposes truthfulness, because a debate is silly if there's no winner. If we can't actually get to the truth on something, a debate is silly.
My understanding,
if we can't know anything for certain, the debate is irrational.
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not know we would be debating. I thought we were going to be discussing. I did not know we were going to.
A disagreement involves debate. Now, this isn't a formal debate.
Oh, you mean okay. I thought you were saying this was a formal debate.
No, because it's formal debate.
Okay.
We have
timer,
we
are debating back and forth.
We'd have Q&A. We'd have.
I have seen formal debates take place. No, I understand. Okay.
Not like that. Although I have done those, I enjoy them. I like conversations as well.
Sure.
Especially someone as level-headed as yourself. You haven't cursed me out or called me.
Well, that's irrelevant.
Well, you kind of did call me crazy, but
no, I said you were arrogant. Arrogant. Yeah, I said. Yeah, right. I mean, someone may look at this and say you're not, but I think if another person did
me being arrogant doesn't make me wrong or right.
Not at all. You can
assume You can assume a lot of evil or ill intentions. No, I'm saying you could, if you did that, it wouldn't mean I'm right or wrong. It just would be
sure. Arrogant. And that was
arrogant people are right sometimes.
I would say probably more than likely the most, because they're the ones who
was that an admission that I'm right?
No, I'm not admitting. I'm just kidding. You're right. No, but no, I understand what you're saying. And I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think for the reason that I'm just kind of, I understand formal debate and like I said, over the river, through the woods. And it's just such an interesting thing to me. I have to say, whenever these conversations take place, it makes me feel more comfortable. Like it reinforces my lack of belief. I will say that it does. And the reason it does is because if the deity existed as simply as, like I said, the cat or like the books behind you, and you would just show me the deity. And you would just say,
I don't have God in a box that I can whip out and show to you like a cat. Not that I keep cats in boxes, but I think you get the point I'm making.
Schrodinger's cat. And I understand that. And that's,
so
that's
the level of argumentation.
You went feedback again, Chris. I don't know.
God don't want me to have this conversation.
That's funny.
I'll exit
I
back.
think so.
Yeah. No, that was interesting where you guys were going in that aspect of, so like when you were talking about how it reinforces your,
hopefully y'all can hear me.
My lack of belief.
Yeah, we're good now. Yeah, that was interesting where you were going, where you're talking about how like it enforces your lack of belief. Like why is that?
Because if it was demonstrated to exist or evidence more than likely showed that it did, it would just be shown. We wouldn't have to go all through all this song and dance and all of that. It would just be, hey.
And do you mean the same, when you say the evidence, do you mean the same type of evidence?
That's what I was about to get into, Joseph.
Like this. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
Because you're arguing, because the claim the Christian God is a supernatural claim. He's not a materialistic God like the cat example you brought up. So the level of evidence will require different evidence. For example, logic is not a material. I cannot give you a material evidence for logic. I can't put it in a cup. I can't measure it in a scientific lab.
Is the logic? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. There's a different level of evidences that will substantiate logic.
Sure. So let's move away from that, and that's kind of, that goes to my point, to be honest with you. That goes
or
to
morality. Morality can't be measured in a cup.
And that goes to
measured by a scientific experiment.
And that goes to my point, right? If there was, and if it's supernatural, you would. So you claim it's supernatural outside of nature. So
by supernatural, I mean non-material.
Oh, so just immaterial. That's your usage of the word.
Yeah, one. Yeah.
Okay.
Beyond nature, how immaterial. Yeah.
How can you make conclusions about something that doesn't manifest in nature?
Same way you do about logic. Logic is immaterial.
That doesn't answer my question.
It does.
But you're making direct claims about this God. You're saying that the God came down to earth and inhabited in body, and all of these very interesting, quite extreme claims. Yeah. Those, how do you know? And if the thing is immaterial, how can you conclude that it does things within the realm of material?
Because he has made it known. He has entered into creation. Our God is not deistic, meaning he did not just create the world and let it go and said, hey, kind of like Thomas Jefferson's God was a deist. He was a deist, if you're familiar with deism. God has...
No, I don't know what deism is. Sorry, you're not trying to be insulting.
I wasn't. I don't... I try not to assume things about people, so... If it sounded,
I'm very well versed in these topics, even if I'm not well versed in
the particulars,
the nuances of logic. Right, because when I interact with
Nikki,
people,
I'm serious. I wasn't trying to be arrogant when I said that. I don't know what you know.
Right, but I feel like when I interact with, I'm not talking to you every day, and even when I want to do this on a larger scale. That's why I'm interested in it. I want people to be able to see and hear these conversations, but there's a lot to learn about this, and I'm very interested in it, but I'm not talking to formal debaters every day. So these aren't necessarily the topics we discuss,
and I'm not a formal debater. I'm just a dumb kid from Louisiana.
Didn't you say
who read a couple books?
Or you said you've done like formal debates before.
I have, but I'm just saying, I'm just a dumb. I'm a dumb kid from Louisiana who read a couple books. That's it.
I don't think that's true. But I understand that. But my point is that, and I'm so sorry I deviated.
You're fine.
From the question.
Oh yeah,
So
you were asking me how I know, and so yeah.
sure.
So
Okay, right. So you
I
had said the God manifests itself in reality. So if it's outside of nature, how is it able to do that?
well, so he can materialize, just like so Jesus in the incarnation became a man.
I understand that as
Yeah,
part of the myth. I do. So how do you know that actually happened?
that Jesus existed.
No, that Jesus or the deity or that the deity you believe in actually incarnated this person named Jesus.
Well, he didn't incarnate the person named Jesus. He is the person, Jesus.
Okay, okay. How do you know that?
Well, the same way you do, because God has made it known. He has revealed it in the pages of Scripture, which is inspired and breathed out by Him.
So I don't know that. So saying I do
You do. That's why
is
you asked me about it.
no, 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 no. So are you talking about like in actual reality or in the book?
Yeah, both.
Okay, so I'm just talking
Because it's in a
about,
book doesn't mean it's false. I mean,
but it's just because it's in a book doesn't mean it's true.
sure,
So
but it is a historical. Jesus historically existed.
that's
He
fine.
died, and
That's fine.
the tomb is empty.
Okay, the tomb is empty. So how do we know that that is due to a deity's existence and whatever other involvement the deity might have?
What do you mean?
Your claim is that the Christian God or the Christian God is Jesus or vice versa, right? And that the tomb is empty because the deity reincarnated or rose again or whatever.
Because he resurrected.
So
I don't believe in reincarnation.
I wasn't not well, no, I specifically didn't say resurrected, but that's the point, right? So I'm asking
But
how
you're
do
asking me
you
about my
know?
belief, so I think it's important to use at least my language to describe something, not
Oh, okay, sure,
because
that's fair.
otherwise you're
Sure.
it's a conjecture or straw man version if you know just so in all fairness.
No, that's fine. That definitely wasn't my intention. So resurrected.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's not my intention. I really
I
hate
believe you.
straw
I
men,
believe.
but yeah, and so how do you know that that is true?
Which
Or
claim that Jesus resurrected?
well, let's just talk about the God itself. How do you know that the God actually exists? I mean, I know you like I know you mentioned logic and other things like that, but other to be fair, and this remember you're talking to me. Other people have said the same,
All
so
right,
that doesn't
I'll
help
give you.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
That doesn't help me.
I'll give it to you. You want to know how I know God exists?
Please, I've been asking.
The same way you do, because He has
So
made it known.
I don't know God exists.
Yes, you do. You know God exists.
Oh, there it is. There's the
Yeah,
presupposition. There's a
yeah, yeah,
Seidenberg.
yeah,
There's the
yeah.
reason why.
That's right.
Right.
That's that,
Okay.
well,
So you're
that's just what the
claiming
Bible says.
sure, sure. I know it says that. I know
Yeah,
it says that.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm
Because you know
telling
what, and
you,
you've done it in this conversation, and it was a perfect example of it. And
present it to me, please.
I'm glad we had this conversation because I know my brother Joseph just said he brought up Romans 1, and you did exactly what Romans 1 says the unbeliever will do. You suppress the truth in unrighteousness,
Oh,
and
okay.
you have done that this whole conversation. There is no ultimate truth. We cannot know. No one knows.
I said I don't believe there is. I did not say there wasn't, because then
Is
that would
there?
be I don't know. I don't believe
Exactly.
there
That's what I said.
is.
You don't know. You don't know if there's ultimate truth or not.
No, you said
You
there was. You said I said there wasn't. And I
well, you
want to clarify that I
okay.
did not say
Okay.
that.
I'll apologize for that. You stated that you don't know if there's
Sure.
ultimate truth. That
I
is
don't
actually
see a penalty for being honest,
that.
but I
Yeah, yeah.
but I
But that is
understand that
actually
that's where we
suppressing.
are.
That is actually suppression of truth.
I
God has made it known.
I
My
don't
brother brought up
know.
creation, about how God has created things don't create themselves. They created things are not eternal. They
Can
need
you
to be created.
demonstrate, because you're making the claim is created,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
so basically all the things you're saying are claims. Even the claim
absolutely.
that I know that a God exists, which I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I don't know that.
Okay.
I've been presented with this claim from you and pretty much everyone else. Um, and I don't know that. And it actually
This
this
conversation is proof of it.
conversation, sure, I know you're saying that. I know you're making claims, and
Yeah.
that's
Well,
don't
it's
make
a true claim that this conversation expresses the suppression of truth That's what I've been doing this whole time.
But I don't believe that it's true. So I don't believe it's true. And
But you don't know what
I
truth is. Remember, I want to hold
no,
you to that claim. I want to
I
hold you to that.
said
You don't know what
I
truth is.
said no. I said that based on what we understand, we know what's most likely true.
But
And
you don't know if it's true or not.
Not to
There we
absolute
go.
certainty.
So it could be possible, even from your own admission, that
That's fine,
this
but it
is
could
a
also be.
suppression of truth.
But we haven't demonstrated that it's more than likely true. So I'm
But
not sure how we can assert that it is a suppression of truth.
more than
at
likely,
all.
still lose room for you to be wrong. Have you been
That's
highly
fine.
probable of stuff that you've been wrong about?
Yes, but
So you don't
that's
actually know it.
okay. But at that point, I was able to demonstrate that my assumptions up to that point were incorrect. I have not been given that privilege here because you are
I
using
think
the
we have.
Bible to try to you not in my no, not from what I've seen. You're using the Bible to try to validate the Bible.
Yes.
And what would need for me to because
Do
right
you
now
use
I'm just
logic to
hearing
validate
biased.
logic?
I'm not going to be able to go, like I said,
I
into
know.
in depth regarding.
I know, because you're in a worldview that can't answer these things.
I don't think that's fair. I think what could be
Let's go
happening
2
is
hours
that
and 20 minutes later, you can't answer these things because you don't have an objective truth standard
so
foundation.
my inability to answer your specific questions does not
Anyways,
negate or validate
any
the
humanist,
existence of your deity.
any human,
Whatever, any Muslim, anyone who disagrees with you, our inability to answer your pointed questions doesn't actually mean like that doesn't validate or negate the God's existence. My inability to describe a certain thing doesn't negate its existence. That's not what this is based on.
It leaves you out of the conversation to actually engage with it.
That's not true. That's actually
if you don't know something, then you probably should stay out of it. If you don't know if something's true or false, you actually can't have a conversation about it.
Actually, I'm trying to learn what's true or false here, and I'm not really being given the opportunity to even.
It's impossible to learn it because you can't know it.
Wow,
I asked you specifically, can man know ultimate truth?
Because you are so focused on avoiding the point. I have to be so particular in every single word I say, and it's so distracting. And it's like, if we could just discuss the issue, and I really want to discuss why you are so assured that this deity exists and why you keep
impossibility of the contrary. I've answered that at least 3 or 4 times now.
I need for you to demonstrate it's more than likely that that's impossible.
I'm not
really
arguing
would like for
more
you to
than
do
likely.
that.
I'm not
for
arguing.
for me, I don't see it as true, and I would need you want me to, or even likely true. I don't see that.
No,
so
I'm not arguing.
I would instead of just saying I'm right, because that's what you're doing.
No,
I'm right. I'm right.
Come on, Nikki, I've done more than that.
It's all
don't reduce my
evolved.
argument.
It's reduced to I'm right.
Well, if I reduce to your argument, you're saying I have no clue what's going on here.
I did not say I have no clue what's going on.
Well, I get to reduce it, just like you just reduced my argument.
But that's not even.
Yes, you don't know if there's ultimate truth. That is your argument.
That's okay. I don't necessarily understand why. I'm saying
you can't know.
So what I'm wanting to do is not gain ultimate knowledge.
Can you know?
I'm not trying to gain ultimate knowledge. I'm trying to get enough data to assess. I am trying to get enough data to assess what is most likely true so I can move forward. And this is what is most likely true, what is most likely demonstrable, what most likely aligns with reality and what we observe in our everyday lives, which most likely
is all I have to do is show you I have to show you the possibility that you can make a 3-point shot, but I don't actually have to make it.
There's a lot of different facets. No.
Yeah. No, I don't have to make the shot. Just show
that's
it.
Not.
I just got to hit
the ring. Is the claim that you can make it? Because what we're looking at here is a claim that the Christian God exists.
Argument. Well, not for you. Your argument is that he likely exists. Remember, because we can't ask the question.
I didn't even say he likely exists. No. What I'm asking and what I've been clear about is I would like to see demonstration that points to the God most likely or more than likely existing. No, you're making these ultimate. See, you're trying to you're trying to misconstrue what I'm saying, and I understand how important it is. I understand it's important to do that because it's from what I understand. What I'm From what I understand,
Most likely understand.
to the best of my knowledge. Sure. Why is that a problem?
Because you need to be consistent with your worldview. You don't
I
understand.
am.
anything.
I'm trying
You
to
most likely
say.
understand.
I'm trying to admit to you that there is. I don't believe there is ultimate, 100% always, knowledge, because we are not, as commonly defined, we are not deities. So I'm trying to explain that there's some humility also and honesty in admitting that you may not know every potential situation that could arise, but
You don't know
based on
one
data,
situation.
that's not. I don't know why you're saying that, because
I'm not asking you to. I'm not asking you to
That's
tell
not.
me
That's
everything
not.
that you know. Everything, of course. I'm not. I'm not
I would
telling you to
like.
be omniscient. You can't say
You actually
one thing
kind
that's
of are.
no.
You're actually telling me that because I'm not, I can't have a conversation on. You have said
You
because
don't
you
know
don't
one
know.
thing for certain, let alone millions.
I
You don't know
know
one thing for
things that
certain.
are more than likely, and I based on
Exactly.
information, and that is okay. And we can still
According to
live and
whom?
operate. Well, we're all living and operating in this world
According
together.
to whom?
Well, I would assume. Okay. Do you understand that we are living and operating in this world like together?
So according
Do
to
you?
whom?
I'm asking you.
Yes. So according to whom?
Okay, according to me. Do you
There you
understand
go.
that you are here with
There you
me?
go. Do you? You're the one that said you don't know anything for
This
certain.
is the game.
I know we're here for
This is the
certain.
game.
You
This is
don't.
the game. Okay,
This is
I
not a
find that
game.
you would have to demonstrate that, but and that's what I'm saying.
I
This
didn't
is the
demonstrate it.
game.
You admitted it.
No. You said I know for certain. So
Yes.
with you making that claim, that's something you would have to show.
But you
And
can't even. You don't even know. You can't
I would
even.
know
You
more than
can't
likely
enter
if
a
it was
conversation on.
true.
You can't enter a conversation on ultimate truth when you don't believe
I'm
in
not
ultimate truth.
trying. But I never agreed, first of all, that we were seeking ultimate truth. What I was asking for was
Yes, you
evidence to
did.
help.
In the beginning, you stated your goal was to find as much truth and deny as much lies as you can.
Sure. Yes. And that
That
means
is a
as much
claim of
information that,
objectivity.
no, that's not what, when I say that, that's not what I'm saying. That might be a misconstrual there. I'm trying to garner as much information as possible that points towards what's more likely than not to be true, so I can live within the world accordingly. And then if something happens, which thankfully most of our inferences don't mostly change. Thankfully, the meteor hasn't come to hit Earth. Thankfully, my family's still alive. Thankfully, things like that. But
Why should you
what
be
I would
thankful?
like. Why should I be thankful that my mom is still alive?
Thankful for anything.
See, this is the issue.
Why
I'm not
can't
even
you
gonna
answer
lie.
the question?
No, I'll answer it. I'll answer it. But I just want to preface it by saying this is kind of the issue with the conversations that tend to happen with Christians is, in generally, I'm being general. I am being
challenge your
general.
claims?
No. That's not it. It's interesting that you would even feel the need to challenge why I would be thankful my family is alive, because I love them, I care for them, and
That
I want
assumes.
them.
So, are people obligated to be thankful for their families?
No, I don't know what that has to do with my statement about my particular life, but I find it very interesting that this song and dance continues without.
You keep
yet
calling it a
again,
song and dance
because
when
it is.
I've already demonstrated some of my claims, which you can't. You're
Okay,
not.
which
Your
claim have
worldview.
you
Your
demonstrated?
worldview is not. This is like the 4th or 5th time that I've said it, but hold on.
Oh,
Your
okay.
worldview can't interact with it because it's not objective. It's not ultimate. It's not universal.
Okay, but that
You
doesn't
don't have
mean
a world, Nikki.
Okay,
So
just
ultimately,
because I don't accept your claim, and just because I reject the claim that you make that your deity is existing and therefore that's true, that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation about it.
no, you
That
can
doesn't
have a
mean that I
conversation,
can.
but it's not
That
rooted.
doesn't mean
It's
that
not rooted in rationality.
I disagree.
Based on
I
what?
would like for you.
On what standard?
I have to like I have to like,
because you've constantly appealed
because
to yourself.
it isn't just me. It isn't just me,
You
but
constantly appeal to people who think like you. It's a subjectiveness.
it actually no. I haven't just appealed to people who think like me. There are plenty of people who don't think like me who would disagree with your claims, and that's not just who I've
And there are
mentioned, and I
people
have.
there's people who would disagree with you, who would disagree with your
Sure,
claim.
sure, but
So
wait. What claim have I made
you made many claims. You made a claim
about the
that
existence of the
you
deity?
made a claim that you don't know. That you made a claim that you can't know ultimate truth. Or
That is not a claim that
that is a
that anybody. No, wait, that is not a
claims can
claim
be
that
positive
anyone.
or negative.
Okay, all right.
Anytime you open up your mouth, you're making a claim.
That's. I don't.
You're about to
listen, I
say
don't
no, it
believe
isn't. That's a
true.
claim.
Okay? This is the game, and
It's,
no,
it's Nikki,
this is
stop
actually
calling it a
very.
game. That's
No,
insulting. That's demeaning to me.
I understand that, and I kind of intend it to be, because the point is that this has become more about me and
No, it's been
not.
about both of us defending our worldview. Which worldview can
I'm really
exist in the
actually
world
not
we live in?
defending it. I really just would like for
Because you
you.
can't. Your worldview is undefensible. People have tried for thousands of years.
So, in my perspective, your worldview is indefensible because
But you don't have a worldview to engage in it. You're standing on my worldview to critique my worldview. You're cutting the branch you're sitting on.
No.
Absolutely. You're living in God's world.
You have
God doesn't exist.
You have yet to demonstrate a deity exists, and until that has taken place.
Let me ask you this: why does truth need evidence? That sounds like an objective.
Do you want to exist in a world? I didn't say that.
Truth needs to be demonstrated by evidence. Is that your claim?
What's more than likely true does need to be.
Well, then you could be wrong about your likeliness.
Okay, so is that a problem to be wrong? Is it a problem for there to be room for evolution and growth? Because it's
wrong to be wrong. Yes. It's wrong to present lies. Yes.
Okay, so until
a person who believes in falsehood is called a fool.
Sure, but
not a wise person for evolution and growth.
But but until one can ultimately demonstrate that they're ultimately true, we are always operating in.
How can I do that given your worldview? You can't ultimately defend something.
I'm not ultimately defending it. I'm trying to tell you there is
room. You can't ultimately demonstrate something if there's no ultimate truth.
What I'm trying
to
tell you
asked me to give ultimate demonstration. That was the exact words you said.
No, I don't think I did. What I'm saying is,
encourage people to listen to it.
Sure, I would, and I'm going to go back and listen myself. I would like to learn as much as possible. What I'm saying, well, of course, like I don't mean that insulting. I'm the one who's a proponent of growth here and flexibility. So
am I. Mean, but I'm also a proponent of knowing things. Those aren't in contrast.
You're the individual who said you're a presuppositionalist. So that to me does not reflect a person who's willing to assume that or accept that they could be possibly wrong or grow in any way.
Here, Nikki, I could be wrong about certain things, but I'm not wrong about everything.
I understand that, but based on the topic, no. Based on the topic that we are discussing specifically.
Could you be wrong about that? Could you be wrong about the fact that you don't know everything? Because you said you don't know everything. So could it be that you actually do know everything?
I don't know.
You don't know if you don't know everything?
I don't know. Oh my God.
So you're all knowing.
I never said that I was all knowing.
That's
See, this is the game. This is the game. This is the game. And that no, this is honestly the game. And this was the issue.
I'm dead serious.
This is the issue we went into, like that I saw with that debate with Bruggen, whatever, and Dillahunty, was the song and dance. I'm not going to provide tangible things for you to consider that may or may not be true or whatever.
I don't have tangible evidence of a non-material God. We've already demonstrated this.
No, you've claimed it, and you've also simultaneously.
And I thought you agreed.
You also simultaneously said that the immaterial God manifested here on Earth. That is a material thing.
2,000 years ago.
I don't care. You're making decisions based on it today and claiming it happened.
And he resurrected. What? He's not here. I mean, what do you want me? A piece of hair that fell off his head? I don't know.
No. Here's the issue. You're saying that God is immaterial, but yet the God manifests materially. Okay. I'm asking you to demonstrate that that's true, or that it's more than likely true, what you're saying. And you're going to logic and a bunch of other nebulous concepts. If you don't mind,
You don't see how
and
they're
also,
related to the question you're asking.
additionally, as well, I'm assuming you say the deity speaks or interacts with you, that it hears your wishes and other things like that. And also,
I
too,
don't
not
make
just
wishes.
that, whatever, dude, what your desires. Like, also, too, you're also saying that it's something that I can interact with and something that would make
God doesn't hear your unbelievers' prayers.
you're saying. I'm saying it could be. I don't.
Not
Whatever.
could.
No, I'm saying that if I were to somehow move to your way of thinking, that this is something that I could do as well. That's what I'm saying. Not in my current state, but
Yeah.
like right.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you repented and trusted in Jesus Christ for your salvation, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So,
And that's what I
I'm
command you to
asking-
do. Trust in Jesus, who not only saves you from your sins, but saves you from your wrong thinking.
if you
See the issue,
are
Nikki. Hold on, Nikki.
representative
Let me
of this
let me get my gospel presentation. You need to be
you
saved
get a
from
little
your.
bit. You have some time for that.
you need to be saved from your sins, but also your thinking. The Bible presents
Sure.
man as not neutral, but you are in hostility towards God. You don't want the God of the Bible. There's the reason why thieves don't look for the police.
To be hostile for, I don't.
You are under the hostility of God.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So I can't really operate. Sure. And once again, like you said, well,
I like
it's just your
vanilla.
opinion. That's okay. So I guess it applies to you as well. So
No, I don't have a subjective worldview. That's
you literally just said to me that I am acting in hostility to this deity. I told you.
Well, no, I said you're
believe...
under the hostility of God. He's hostile to you.
Oh, so
as
your
well.
deity is a threatening, kind of rude. Okay, so I'm just going to say this. You want me to come over to your... I'm going to say this. You want me to come over to your idea of way of thinking.
Can I say it how I would say it real quick? I want you to repent and turn from your sin and trust in Jesus Christ.
I don't believe in sin. I don't believe that Jesus Christ exists, and I don't believe in...
Well, that's absurd. Jesus Christ absolutely existed. Even agnostic and atheists say that.
In the capacity in which we're discussing him. I don't really care if some dude back in the day. That's not who I'm talking about. You know that. So I don't believe that. And until you're able to...
So you assume your naturalism. So you're willing to say Jesus existed. He exists the way I want him. A natural atheist Jesus.
I don't really have any perspective on...
This is exactly what the Bible says.
Person.
Man
I know
makes their
that's
own
what the
image
Bible
of God
says.
when they don't want the true God of the Bible.
It's very interesting. Well, at least the Bible's self-aware.
Yeah.
You know what
it's
self-aware. I know. It's always the God. It's always the Muslim God. It's always Christian. It's always one person's.
We're not arguing for those.
But I'm just saying, this is what I hear. That's what I'm saying is I've heard this before, and I hear this endlessly. And
there's great critiques of Islam. If you like to hear a debate on it, I can send you on why the Islam God does not exist.
Sure.
And many critiques of it.
And they're going to send me debates on why your God doesn't exist.
No, they actually their worldview is dependent upon the Christian worldview. Islam.
It is derivative, yeah. It is derivative.
But not just derivative, but dependent. There is no Islam without Christianity.
That might be
Islam assumes you know what the Bible says to make claims that Islam says.
Okay,
it's super dependent upon
your
the Bible.
Worldview is dependent upon Judaism, and theirs is dependent upon...
No. My worldview is the fulfillment of Judaism.
And they disagree. So there we go. And that's what this...
They have no Messiah, so who cares?
Right, exactly. You don't like that story because it doesn't have a Messiah. Muslims don't like it because Jesus is just a prophet.
The Old Testament is incomplete without the fulfillment of the New Testament.
I know, and they say it hasn't been fulfilled yet. So
it is impossible for it to be fulfilled. There's thousands of prophecies that have yet to be fulfilled, which cannot be, even according to many Jews.
Okay, my point is that people disagree, and additionally, I know that you're saying
people disagree about slavery.
Can we please stay on the topic of
Nikki? Here's a question I think too that maybe Chris was getting at. As we started, I think we talked about this. The question of, like, for example, if Christianity were true, like, would you become a Christian, right? So, like, in terms of like.
You said you would?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
But
So yeah, so this kind
I
of
was
gets to,
confirming
like,
he asked me. that
Okay.
question.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So this kind of like, for me, it kind of is at like the heart of even this discussion, right? So it's like, you know, are you on a kind of like a truth quest, right? Like, do you want to know what truth is? Do you want to know
You
what
said
Oh.
you
is
were.
right
No,
versus
I
like,
responded before he continued. My apologies. Continue, Joseph.
oh no, no, you're fine. Like, do you want to know what is right? You know, what is true? Or like, for example, you know, a lot of atheists that I've encountered, I do agree that they I do believe that they're going to say that they don't believe God exists, right? They're saying it. I can hear them say it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I know you don't like this God from what you know about it. And when they're asked, would you become a Christian if it were true?
Mhm.
If you say no, to me that's completely illogical, right? Because it's like, if it's true, then you would want to
Follow
believe
it.
it, follow it.
If
Yeah. So
it's
like, if you,
true, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. So like if it is true, you would want to follow it. But are you saying, yeah, if God exists, if Jesus lived the perfect life and he lived the life I couldn't live, he died the death I should have died, he rose, he defeated sin and death, and he calls me to repent and trust in him for salvation. I get to spend eternity with him. I like to think of it this way. It's kind of funny where I'm like, you know, you're never not that it's this, but I'm like, you're never in a bad mood. You never stub your toe. But I mean, you're free of sin. You're free of being annoyed. You're free of everything, and you get the Creator. And if that was true, if that were true, then you wouldn't follow Jesus, is what you're saying. Like, if that were true, you're like, no, I wouldn't become a Christian.
If it was demonstrated that Christianity, as defined in the Bible, was more than likely true, and we could say with as much certainty as we could that it is, and that's what I'm going for.
Right.
That's what evidence is pointing towards. Then no, I would not follow that deity because I believe that deity is capricious, manipulative,
Subjectively
and
speaking.
And
oppressive.
I think
Sure,
Chris. So
yeah,
I think
sure.
Chris will do good. I think Chris will do good with this, because this was one of the things where I know you had tweeted, like, Christians get their morals the same way atheists do, or I think you had
Yes,
said, I think you had said, more humans define morality, not God. So when you say,
yes,
like
right.
if I were to say, if Christianity are true, would you become a Christian? And then you say no, because God is XYZ. Do you
As
see that
depicted
as,
in my interpretation of it, yeah.
yeah, but like, you're saying like he would be immoral, but like, what standard do you hold above God to say he would be wrong for being how you have understood him in the Bible, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I like the concept of well being and trying to maximize the well being of as many people as possible. I know that there's some
Did you say
really unfortunate.
as many people as possible?
I would like to yes, I would like for
I'm
our
not
goal
objecting.
to
I'm just
be
make sure I heard you right.
sure. I would like for our goal to be as a species, we're doing our best here together. I would like for our goal to be to maximize well-being of as many people as possible. That is a whole philosophy class, discussing utilitarianism and everything like that. And there's always, the trolley, those questions. But I'd like for that to be. But I know that in order for that to be, some people are going to suffer. And that
Collateral
sucks.
damage.
Yeah. Just like for the lion to eat, gazelle's got to suffer.
Survival of the fittest.
No. Well, fittest really means not, fittest means reproductive ability. So that's what fit means, not I'm stronger or I'm might makes right. It's really who has the most babies. So that's what survival of the fittest means. So it doesn't really align
Shots
with
fired at abortion.
evolutionarily. Yeah. But as far as actually giving a woman the the ability to manage her own body, that's one of those nuances that we unfortunately kind of have to discuss. And I was telling Joseph, I think this is a result of our fitness, actually, of being so successful, that we have reproduced so well, that we have kind of taken control, and we don't really have to have as many babies as possible to maximize the chance that some survive and the men aren't out, hunting. Like, there's some variances here because of our success, but yeah,
biologically, the baby isn't the mother's body. So when you say you can take control of the mother's body, how does that give you the right to, or not you, but how does that give women the right to murder their children?
So the baby is dependent upon the mother to survive up until a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think
like 12,
agree. Like years old.
Yeah, I couldn't survive at my own at 10.
What I mean is the basics, like mom. Staying alive. Like, she's not providing you with like a direct conduit of food, like in other things. Like, someone else can, by the time you're born, someone else can feed you, etc. My point is, as far as, a baby in utero, definitely can't, like, their body would, the body would cease to exist, or they would die without, of course, the mom. So, but in that case, it's her baby. It's her right.
So she can kill it.
So if she falls, I don't like the word murder here, and that goes back to the nuance. What was right, but once again, like,
it's unjustified taking of a life. You can take out a baby.
I don't know if it's unjustified. I don't know, because
Nikki, would you grant and I've had this conversation with people before, would you grant in any situation, like, where you would not be for abortion? So, like, would you say, like, hey, like, if my wife, I have a 1.5-year-old son, right, who's completely dependent upon me, or he will die, right? Like, completely dependent upon me, like, he will die.
He's dependent upon someone to provide for him. He's cute, like I said, he's cute enough that if he walks outside, he's going to be adopted like that. So somebody's going to feed that cute baby.
I would say, like,
sorry if you're ugly, baby.
Like,
yeah, well, that's true. There's a reason the neonatinous features are there for yeah, right. It's
like,
true.
but like dependency in general, like, he's dependent, like, period, no matter what, like, he's dependent, right? Yes, so, like, if I left him in the house and me and my wife left and never came home, like, he will 100% die, right? So,
depends
like,
on how long you're gone.
1 month.
Oh, you said never came home. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, we never. Yeah, he'd absolutely die, right?
Sure.
So in terms of abortion, right, there are some people who would say, hey, they're all for body autonomy. They want, women to have that right up until birth, right? So, like, because we had this conversation when you said, for example, someone like a newborn baby where there's tragic things happening to them, and you didn't like that, and you were like, it's just wrong. Like, anything with kids is just wrong. So, like, if my wife was pregnant.
Well, I said, with the exception of certain situations with certain nomadic tribes in Africa.
Right.
So those would be new ones.
So, like, is there any situation, so, like, if a woman was pregnant and her life wasn't at risk, but it was just that, you know what, I just don't want the baby, so I'm going to get an abortion. Do you, in your worldview, consider that murder? Because how you guys were kind of conversing, where you would say it's situational. The Christian perspective would say it's always murder because it's the premeditated taking of a life.
No. There are Christians that don't agree on this. And
I guess what I mean is, like, the proper perspective that God that we believe God would have on what murder is. Like, so
not
for example,
Christians believe that, though.
Yeah, so I would say that no, I agree with you that I say that all Christians don't believe that. I would say they're in error because of what Scripture says, right? Right. So what I'm saying, like, for you personally, where do you see? Because I think the last time we talked, you had a little bit of nuance of, like, you would say at a certain point, like, hey, it's wrong, but, like, at this point, it's not. I don't remember. I think you kind of had some nuance there, which is always interesting to me because I've heard Chris converse with people about this. It's always interesting to me to look at, like, the spectrum of, like, okay, where would it be? Like, 8 months? No. 7 months? No. But, like, 6 months? Okay. Do you think it's, like, because it's less developed, it's kind of easier to set it out people's minds? Like, what is your perspective on that? Like, where do you draw that line, or do you think up until birth is okay?
Oh God, this is such an an odd, like not an odd conversation, but
Yeah.
So I personally, and I can't, I don't really know. You'll have to forgive me. I don't know necessarily the stages of development very well, which is wild because I have a master's degree in child development. But as far as like
Look at those college institutions.
It wasn't about this. It was actually on like domestic
just messing with you.
violence and
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes. But so for me personally, and once again, this is not any type of scientifically backed statement. This is my opinion.
Sure,
I think that's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
If I personally, just me, I wouldn't have an abortion, and I don't want to get too personal, but I was pregnant and lost the baby, so I feel a lot of guilt. Yeah, I personally feel guilt that I wasn't able to do the one literal thing that my body, like at all, like basal requirements. That hurt me. I personally wouldn't. In most cases, if I was raped or something like that, I don't know what I would do. I would be more open to it in that case. But that's just me. I can't tell another woman what to do with the baby living in her body, or the life in her body. I personally would like to, if she is thinking of terminating the pregnancy, I would like personally, and this is not me saying what she should do or any type of scientifically supported statement, do it before the baby would be able to survive outside of her body. So that's what I mean when I say the baby can survive without her. Not that like it needs food and water. Of course, you need the nurses or somebody to come and feed it. But I would personally want for it to happen before that. But
so pretty much like once they're born, it's like you can't, right? Is that what you mean?
I wouldn't even say once they're born. I would say once no, I'm not even going to Google it. I would say there's a point in development where the baby can survive. Now it would be premature, but the baby could survive outside of the mother, even if it's not fully developed. That's what I'm saying. Not that it's, there has to be like the 10-month, full development. I'm saying whenever that point is, I would like to see, that continue. I think that's a little bit rough, but I don't know what I don't, it's not, I hate to
I think no, you're fine. I think like, so what I'm asking is, I get where it's very nuanced for people where they don't want to like pinpoint when they would say it's not okay. But I think you can, in a sense of, I think you would agree. I'm not saying you're going to agree with all abortion being wrong, but I think you would agree that if someone is able to like have the child, right? Like if someone is able to have a child and
like
they're not
via
in danger,
C-section, if that would be like, even if it's not ready to induce.
I'll just use the example like just natural birth, like they're going to give birth, but they just decided, I don't want to be a mom. I don't want to be a mom. All they decided is I don't want to be a mom, so I'm going to have an abortion. Like, would you say like that would be a wrong thing to do?
I don't know. I can just say what
that's fine.
What I would like. And here's why I say I don't know. Because every person, when you walk down the street, you see someone pass you, you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know the issues happening in their life. I try to water down humans to being similar to other animals as far as being able to provide for, their offspring and all that. But it's really more complex, of course. I don't know. I could say personally, I would hope if the baby is able to survive outside the mother, that she would at least, in a C-section it's an egregious violation of a woman's body, and that sucks. And I say violation, not necessarily
my wife had a C-section.
Yeah,
her and my son almost died.
My friend had the same, and she had so many fibroids that they couldn't even find him, and it was just such a high risk pregnancy. And she did, I hate that, I really do.
Nikki, I've asked this question on the line of abortion as well. When it comes to pro-choice, why stop inside the womb?
What do you mean?
Like, why stop being pro-choice once they escape the womb? Why not at 6 months while they're, out of the womb? Why
Well, like
shouldn't
I
a woman?
said,
Why shouldn't a woman have the liberty to kill her 6-month-old?
well, she does have the liberty. I just don't think she should. I would call that murder. As I said previously,
Why though?
Well,
biologically, nothing changed. Just development.
That's not the point. Why? It goes back to the ability for this person to exist outside of the mother. Just as it would be, I would say, I hate to say the word wrong, but wrong because I just feel like it has a lot of implications and is more of an emotional term. But wrong to kill another person. I would say that that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because the baby can survive without.
But that's happening in abortion.
Yeah.
A person is being murdered, and it's just location.
Did I
in the womb versus out?
That the mother's. So what I'm trying to specify is that if the baby is dependent on the mother's body, that's what I'm saying. The baby is dependent on the mother's body for survival, and I'm not talking about someone else being able to feed the baby. For example, since we keep talking about slavery, white women will have babies and have Black women nurse the babies. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in utero. And that's why I said if there is a way, I would prefer to extract the baby and have the baby live its life separately. That would be great when it's able to do so, not before, obviously. But that's my point. I would agree that.
Why would you like to see that? Just curious.
Well, it's just kind of rough to think that someone would murk a baby. That's able to.
You do consider it abortion murder.
That's able. I never said that.
Oh, I thought that's what you just said.
No.
I thought you said it's kind of rough to see a baby murdered. I thought maybe I misheard. Murked, like
just.
Oh, you went H-Town, murked.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did go.
I thought murked was like the rap term slang for murder. So
yeah, I thought it too. Yeah, that's how I've heard it.
I thought it meant just take it out. I thought it meant like taken out, but.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just
you have to go to Urban Dictionary real quick.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure murked. Yeah.
Oh,
that's what it says.
It says to be killed, murdered, or otherwise mercilessly and overwhelmingly defeated or put down. So it's like kind of involving all what we're saying. But go ahead.
Oh, maybe it's more of a
because I think I remember you too, and I think this would be interesting for you and Chris to dialogue about too. Is I know when we talked, when I think I pressed in on, and I know I've heard Chris make this point too. I pressed in on, well, do you believe the fathers then should be free to leave? I don't believe they should be free to leave. I think they're obligated to take care of their child, right? But like, should the father be free to, hey, get the abortion? You didn't get it. I'm out of here. And I think you agreed that the government should not be able to make them, pay for, child support and take care of that child. I thought that was interesting because that's honestly the first time I've heard someone say that. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was
really?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard anyone say that if like for the father, right, the woman has a choice, right? But the father is like, hey, okay, I don't want the baby. But the woman says, it's my choice, I'm keeping it. I think she should. But the father says, well, you kept it and I wanted you to abort it. So now I'm out of here and I'm not taking care of the baby. And I think you agreed that, I think you said the government or like that man should be free not to do that. Is that right? I just think that would be
they do it all the time. I mean, they always gone out for cigarettes, never.
No, but I mean, like you would be. I'm saying like you wouldn't see. Okay, just like you see, that the woman should have that right to, abort their child, to murder their baby. You would say the man in that case would have the right to leave as well, like with no penalty.
Yeah, he has the right to leave. I feel like with tournament species like humans, that's kind of that's kind of what's happened in the past. Humans aren't traditionally pair bonding. Men will compete for the attention of females, much like elephants or lions or something like that, and may not show interest in raising the offspring. And that's why females look for certain traits, extremely dimorphic traits such as strength, and the ability to survive without the help of another partner.
That's it.
So that's why I would just say that because because it's natural, I don't think it's fair to make someone pay because it's natural. This is no offense, brothers.
Okay.
That's what men do.
No, yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
especially unfortunately in our community, which I would like to just thank you both for not representing that stereotype. But in our community, that's very common. 76%. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you. And you know, I
No,
like
yeah,
to say that.
it is a
higher
sad
than
thing.
72, I think.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
sad. Yeah,
It
It's higher
is
now.
sad.
It's higher now, I think. But
76%.
I grew up without my father, so it
Same,
hits
yeah.
home. It gets home for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I grew up with my father and still ended up messed up. So.
What do you what
I do
Nikki,
have privilege in that regard, though.
what do you say to where a woman is pregnant, she's free to have an abortion, but if a woman is pregnant and someone kills her, what do you make of the man being charged with double murder?
He killed her?
He killed a pregnant woman. What do you make of the man being charged with double homicide?
That's very common, actually.
Sadly.
But yet,
Yeah,
but yet
yeah.
he would be charged with double homicide, right? And let's say,
even though the baby can't survive on its own, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, you know, out of the womb.
I think it.
is it just
Okay,
because maybe
okay, that's
is
interesting.
it because maybe the mother wanted it at the time? But if I don't mean to be facetious, but I'm saying as you work through this logic, would it be unfair to say, hey, at the time of the murder, if the woman didn't want the child, the government should only charge him with one homicide. But if the pregnant woman did want the child and was planning to keep it and not abort it, and she was killed, then the man should be charged with double homicide. I think that's fair logic from your perspective.
I don't know, because I'm not sure how the government would view, because now you're asking me how someone should be charged based on a government standard.
Nikki for president. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Okay. I would meet with some gynecologists and sit down with them and try to understand a little bit more about the developmental milestones. And, you know, I would meet with sociologists and ecologists and try to see what resources are available. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that's what, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know. I don't know necessarily how he should be charged. I'm assuming it might have something to do with the developmental progression of the baby. But I don't know. That's a very good question.
So that's interesting because in Texas,
ahead,
if a woman is pregnant, according to the law, doesn't matter. He's in, and from what I understand, that's how it is everywhere legally. I think even federally. If you kill a woman who's pregnant, you're pretty much eligible for capital murder.
Oh well, you should be, but yeah, like in my opinion, you should be. That's like horrible. You know,
real quick, y'all. I'm probably gonna have to dip soon. I gotta go to work.
No, of course.
I'm not trying to get murked. You know what I mean?
The wife, yeah.
No, about my job.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed this conversation, Nikki. I appreciate you being respectful and level-headed, and I'm sure you've had conversations where it just like blew up, and you're like,
not really.
Really? Oh, I have.
I think it's distracting. Well,
I've had conversations with people who cannot handle themselves on a maturity level to like talk like this, and so it's like,
well,
I don't want to talk to a person who's going to be yelling at me, like.
Well, that's distracting from the topic at hand, and
it is, and it shows you can't actually engage if you have to yell at someone, and so
right, it's a distraction. Yeah, right. It's like hand waving. So yeah. No, thank you, and I want to have another discussion down the road, of course.
Yeah. I'm willing. I appreciate your willingness to do so, and
you guys are connected now. So
yeah, I'll have to follow you on Twitter, and
I don't know how I didn't know about you.
Somebody like sent me one of your tweets. I don't know who it was. It might have been Joseph. I don't know. Like, hey, I think it was somebody else, and I think that's how Joseph was like, I don't know. Somebody sent me one of your tweets, people send me stuff all the time, like respond to this, respond to this, respond to this, respond to that.
Same.
And so,
and I'm like, I don't have time to respond.
yeah, I can't respond to everything.
Right.
It'll be like a 10-hour video. They're like, respond to this. I'm like, I am not watching a 10-hour video. Come on.
They'll send you those though.
Yes.
If you watch this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm
not watching it.
Do that. I'm not watching. I just usually say thank you.
Yeah, I always say, this is my response. You'll probably find this funny. I say, well, what do you think about it? And then they'll tell me what they think, and I'm like, sounds good to me.
Right. Thank you for that summary. I'm gonna go with it.
Sounds good. I'll take it. And so, like I said, appreciate you, Joseph.
Same.
Appreciate you facilitating this, man.
Yeah, no doubt, it's been fun.
Yeah, it was. I love these conversations, and it helps me get better and shows me where I need to, to learn some more. But there's all kinds of resources. Why We Believe in Gods by Dr. Andy Thompson, The Faith Instinct by Nicholas Wade. There's some excellent information out there about the basis for religious belief and why it is so ubiquitous and why it is so important to humans. So those are some great books as well. But are there people who have questions or?
Yeah, I know Chris is heading out. I want to get you back because there's Shane in here. I think he wants to talk, but I think he wants to go at you, Nikki. I don't think he wants to go at Chris.
Oh, that's fine. Let's talk. Yeah, that's fine. Shane?
It's whatever.
Hey, I'm a piece.
I appreciate you guys doing
Hi,
this.
Chris. Thank you. Shane. Hi, Shane. Do I know you from anywhere?
Well, we talked a few times on Twitter, not too much.
It's
been respectful for the most part. Jingle Ingle 67.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Jingle Ingle.
I know you talk to a lot of people, so it's no worries. And I've got limited time also, so
sure.
I appreciate you doing the conversation. When I first came across your account, I thought you were just another internet. No offense, internet atheist, but I appreciate you actually getting out there and into the world and having real life conversations like this. We need more.
That's my goal. Yeah, that's my goal. I'd like to move off of this and go into my own podcast platform.
Yeah, for sure.
Having some limitations there, but yeah, absolutely. So what do you have for me?
Well, you throughout the conversation, you kept saying you wanted something to be able to deal with.
Like
in terms of evidence, for the Christian God, you kept saying, give me something to deal with, something that I can examine or something like that. Is that right? I don't want to misrepresent you.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd like something to examine regarding the claim. Sure.
Okay, so I would like to ask you are you a logical positivist?
I don't know what that means, so I can't answer that.
Oh, okay. Let me ask. Are you a materialist? Do you believe only the material exists?
I believe as far as we can demonstrate, that's how things are, but I may be wrong.
As far as we can demonstrate. So
sure.
What about mathematics?
I understand that mathematics is contingent on things we can demonstrate.
Okay, do they exist? So are numbers real? So say, for example, the number... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Not independent of something material that we can look at and apply the number to. Not the number two.
Okay, so could you give me an example?
Sure, one doesn't mean anything without applying it to a material thing. So I have one case of AirPods here. That's
okay, so yeah, I got you. So that would be a representation of the number one, but the number one in and of itself, what is that?
I don't know if we can define the number one in and of itself without attaching it to something to where it's represented. I don't think we can do that.
Well, would you say that numbers are concepts or abstract?
Until they're attached to something, because numbers are things. They're like labels. They're like blue in itself doesn't mean anything unless I'm looking at something that blue is attached to. I don't know if that makes sense, but I would have to show you blue on an object before I could define it to you. And I believe that's the same with numbers, as far as I understand. So from my understanding, I don't believe numbers have really any meaning unless they are applied to something physical.
Okay, so but there are actual laws of arithmetics that exist.
Ooh, oh my goodness. All right. I believe
Well,
you.
I'm not just saying. I mean, you made reference to Lawrence Krauss, and Lawrence Krauss would agree with me that there are actual laws of arithmetic. He's not a mathematician. I know he's a physicist, but
Awesome. If I hit Lawrence. Met him. He's cool. I would defer to him. That's why I said that, because I'm not well versed in the laws of arithmetic, or
I'm not either. I'm not a mathematician.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we have that in common.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Well,
yeah.
go ahead. Well,
follow up. Yeah.
So the universe actually obeys the laws of arithmetic.
Okay.
So where I am getting at is before there were any humans alive, math was a real thing. Arithmetics were real. The laws of arithmetics existed before any humans existed, because the universe obeys the laws of arithmetics. And so I was wanting to know, from a naturalistic standpoint, as someone who doesn't necessarily believe in the immaterial, maybe the metaphysical realm of things, how they can account for things such as the laws of arithmetics, or, as Chris was trying to allude to earlier, the laws of logics, invariant, abstract, universal laws.
So the laws that we refer to, we understand them through observation of their operation in the physical realm. So in order to understand what is logical, or what numbers are, we have to take that and apply it to what we notice, and that's how we can negate if this is one AirPod or two AirPods, or if by observing the natural world, if something is logical or illogical in our observation of it. So I would say that just because humans did not exist, from what I understand, that doesn't mean those things are not, and that they're not real or weren't in existence before.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Are you saying that doesn't mean that they didn't exist before humans? Because I've talked to a lot of atheists who say the laws of logic are just conventional, that they're stipulated upon men, and that's something I would disagree with. I don't believe that about the laws of logic or the laws of arithmetic. I believe that the law of non-contradiction existed before humans existed.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm getting at, is how, from a naturalistic perspective, because it's true. And I'll send you an article online. This article of a physicist who had written an article, and he won an award for it too, is years ago, about the laws of the universe obeying the laws of arithmetic. Really interesting. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. I'm not trying to get you a gotcha question. It's just a genuine question.
Sure. Well, the reason I said gotcha is because my ignorance on these topics has nothing to do with whether or not something actually exists. And
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and I don't want there to be a misperception that I'm like this representative of atheism and I'm supposed to know everything. And that's not true.
Yeah, I got
most of my interest in the subject is from a sociological and ecological and anthropological standpoint. I do know that these are things I do need to study.
Sure. Well, you can only do so much at once, right?
Yeah, I'm barely getting through the faith instinct right now.
No, I got you.
Kind of dragging, but yeah.
We can become imbalanced sometimes. We can focus our area on so much on one thing, and there's other things that we haven't even begun to touch on, and somebody can bring it up and be like, well, I've got no clue.
Right. And I've heard these concepts discussed in other debates, of course. And that's kind of usually where the debates go. And that's why I ask, I feel that if the God, because the God has a lot of physical traits, because the argument is always that it's immaterial, but that it does a lot of things in the material realm, which would mean that there's some material aspect to it. If it's like moving rocks or like creating things like in the material realm. So that's why I ask for just kind of that straightforward, tangible evidence to reflect the actual participation of the God in the material realm. Because I know that we can go, like I say, over the river through the woods with logic and philosophy, but I I always focus on the claims in the material realm. That's why I keep saying,
Sure.
let's just go back. This song and dance. Let's just go back. We're not all the
I got you.
Yeah.
I understand, and that's why I asked that first. If you were a logical positivist, and to sum it up real quickly, I can't stay too much longer. To sum it up real quickly, a logical positivist will say that the scientific method is really the only meaningful way we can arrive at truth. And so when I hear people constantly refer to, well, give me tangible evidence, it has to be science-based. Well, I don't believe that science can answer every question there is to know. I don't believe that every factual question in the universe can be answered by science and empirical observation. And I believe God is categorized into that same category of the immaterial realm, of the metaphysical realm of, you got things like laws of logic. We're not going to have tangible evidence of the laws of logic, of the laws of arithmetic. So, and that's where I would place. You can see representations of them, but it's not actually the law in and of itself. And as far as seeing those, I know you said, well, that was 2,000 years ago, but I believe God actually walked on earth. I'm sorry?
Chris said it was 2,000 years ago.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, Jesus being here 2,000 years ago,
Sure.
There's only so much you can do in the realm of history, because on a technical note, science only deals with today, from what I understand about science. I know earlier he referenced Dr. Jason Lisle, and he an incredibly smart man. He's an astrophysicist.
Great.
He a Christian. He's done debates with other Christians on the age of the universe.
Great.
So I would be right there with Chris in recommending Dr. Jason Lisle. There's a video on YouTube that I'll link to you also.
Yes. Message me.
Yeah.
You know what? Just say I'll go through. You know what? Are you following me? It doesn't matter, because
I don't think I follow you.
You
know how Twitter is so weird. I see more people that I don't follow than what I do follow on Twitter. Twitter's I don't know why that algorithm on Twitter is something else.
It really is.
But I can get a hold of you, and I didn't want to come on here and try to get you a gotcha question. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I just wanted your thoughts on it. And
right, and I would say, even though Jesus walked 2,000 years ago, there's still claims that he's affecting the world today, and that he can do certain things. So if he's able to affect the world today, I would just say, we need to be able to demonstrate that.
Sure, and I guess that would dig into the area of personal testimonies, and I know the arguments back. Well, Muslims have their personal testimonies and stuff, and that would just have to be depicted on an individual case, I guess.
Right.
I think it goes a lot deeper than give me empirical evidence. Though it would be nice, I don't believe everything is answered in that same way.
That's very interesting. I just, if one person's claiming they're right and the other one's wrong, then that's a claim that should be demonstrated.
Sure.
So if someone is saying that with confidence, I would assume that they have a way kind of to show that. And if I get into the same debate with a Muslim apologist, and we kind of go down the road of logical positivism or all those other things, and they're using the same argument to try to demonstrate their God, then we're back at square one. So that's why I was telling him that this was kind of like, it's not really giving me anything to work with. And it doesn't matter if I have absolute certainty or any of that. I need information to work with.
Sure. I just believe, you can easily be trapped into an infinite regress. Well, how do you know A is true? Well, because of B. Well, how do you know B is true? Well, because of C. Well, there's got to be that final stopping point. And if you're familiar with logic, every ultimate authority, I know you have a problem with the word ultimate or whatever, but every ultimate authority is going to have a stopping point, because if you appeal to something outside of that ultimate authority, well, that ultimate authority no longer becomes your ultimate authority. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have, and once again, I will look at more into the philosophy of it.
Do you know who Greg Bahnsen is?
No, I don't. Greg Bahnsen.
Okay. I would Greg Bahnsen. I would highly recommend watching his debate or listening to his debate with Gordon Stein. It took place back in maybe the late 80s or early 90s. I don't even think I was born when it took place. But yeah, it's Greg Bahnsen and Gordon Stein. That would be recommendation I would have for you. Unfortunately, I have run out of time and I got to get off here, but I
Okay.
appreciate you guys letting me come on here and giving me my
No,
thoughts.
thank you.
And Joseph, I
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah, no
you for
worries.
hosting this.
Thank you, Shane.
course.
Thank you so much. And I will do my
Thanks,
best to
man.
find you in the ocean of
All right,
craziness on Twitter.
I'll reach out to you on. I'll reach out to you on Twitter. It may not be here within the next hour or two, but I'll reach out to you.
That is perfectly
Yeah.
fine. Thank you so much, Shane.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Shane.
Nikki. Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Yeah, I think most people have kind of dipped.
Yeah.
That's
was a long
okay. I
conversation.
know we went in. That was good.
Yeah.
That was really
Absolutely.
fun. Thank you guys for coming. We're
Thanks,
gonna just go ahead
everyone.
and end the show. Just gonna talk with Nikki just backstage. But you guys, it was fun. We looked at the chats and they were going back and forth. So
Oh,
yeah, we hope
great.
to do-
I wasn't even looking at the
no, yeah, you're fine. They were talking. I mean, pretty much they were talking.
Well, that's my goal. I want to promote
Yeah.
conversation. Oh wow,
These
there's a lot
conversations are
going on.
good. Yeah, they were going.
Yeah.
Whoever's still on, Nikki will be starting her channel. So, if
Yeah.
you want to get up on there and hear her perspective, talk with her more, want to challenge perspective, learn, go ahead. And, she's on Twitter. We're all on Twitter. So we promote these conversations and we think they're super important. So we're thankful for you guys listening in.
Sure.
You all take care.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Thank you.